Chapter 152. Lu Yuan gently jumped out of the lake with Hulina and stood not far away from Bibidon. Teacher! In front of Bibidon, Hulina didn't dare to be so close to Lu Yuan. She quickly got out of Lu Yuan's arms and bowed to Bibidon. Teacher! You're back? Bibidon had a gentle smile on her face. In the Martial Soul Palace, only Lu Yuan and Hulina had such treatment and could see Bibidon's smile. In front of others, Bibidong was always that aloof and dignified female pontiff. What did you gain from this trip? Bibidong asked. Not a small gain. As he spoke, Lu Yuan told Bibidong everything that had happened since he entered the ancient ruins, other than the part about Zhu Zhuqing. He told Bibidong everything. Divine Seed? When Bibidong learned that Lu Yuan had obtained the divine seed of clear air, she was shocked. Others might not know what a divine seed was, but how could she not know? There were actually two ways to become a god at level 100 since ancient times. One way was to inherit a deity position, which was to inherit someone else's deity position. This method was relatively simple. Since ancient times, many gods had actually left their own inheritances in various parts of the continent. As long as there were inheritors who met the requirements to pass the 9 tests, they would be able to accept the deity position and become a god. Whether it was Bibidon, Chihiro Snow, or the protagonist Tang San in the original work, they had all taken this path. The second path was to create one's own divine position. This path was much more difficult than the first path. One was the legacy of the predecessors, the other was the tree planted by the descendant. One was the inheritor, and the other was the founder. The hardships in this path were naturally much greater, and the difficulty was also much higher. Back then, the sea god had relied on the trident to conquer the sea for thousands of years before he finally became a god. How old was Tang San when he became a god in the original work? He was only 24 or 25 years old. There was almost no comparison. The difference in difficulty between them could be imagined. However, if one could obtain a divine seed that contained pure divine power, then creating one's own divine position would be much easier. As long as one continued to excavate and comprehend the divine power in the divine seed, one's own soul power would be transformed into divine power, and with enough divine power of faith, one might be able to become a god. Now that Lu Yuan had a divine seed, as long as he could unify the continent, would the Martial Soul Palace be afraid of not having enough divine power of faith? At that time, it might be possible to create his own god. On the contrary, there was a lot of spaces. Creating his own divine position, and becoming a god, of that, of course. Of that, of God. Bibidon thought. What she didn't know was that other people's divine position might require enough divine power of faith to be achieved. But the clear air divine seed represented the rule power. In fact, it didn't require divine power of faith. Its difficulty was mainly in refining and comprehending its essence, which was the mystery of the rule power. Refining and comprehending the rule power was the most difficult part of becoming a god. Yes, teacher. Lu Yuan replied when he heard Bibidon's question. Then what's so special about this divine seed? Did you get any benefits after refining it? Bibidon asked. This divinity seed is rather strange. Moreover, it's extremely difficult to refine. I've only managed to refine a little bit of it. As for the benefit, it's that there's some additional divinity in my soul power. Lu Yuan didn't hide anything and spoke about his situation. However, he didn't say what kind of divine seed this divine seed was and what kind of power it controlled. It wasn't that he didn't trust Bibidon, but it was too shocking. So that's how it is. Bibidon nodded lightly. From what you said just now, you also awakened a second martial soul after refining this divine seed? Bibidon's beautiful eyes were full of surprise. Generally, twin martial souls were awakened at the same time. However, Lu Yuan's second martial soul was awakened. Even Bibidon had never heard of it. Yes, teacher. It's my eyes. They have now become polychoria and have many strange abilities. It's just that they can't be attached with soul rings. Of course, Lu Yuan naturally didn't say anything about X-ray vision. Otherwise, he was afraid that Bibidon would think he was some kind of pervert. If teacher misunderstood and doubted his character, then the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. It's really polychoria. Bibidon looked at Lu Yuan's eyes. Although the polychoria didn't appear, it wasn't difficult for Bibidon to see that it was extraordinary. Let me see it, Bibidon said softly. As soon as Bibidon said this, Hulina and Lu Yuan's expressions changed at the same time. What's wrong? Bibidon asked. Nothing, teacher. Lu Yuan turned around and looked at a lake not far away. Teacher, look. He didn't dare to look directly at Bibidon. His control of the polychoria was still not enough. If he didn't control it well and saw Bibidon's naked body, then it would be a big joke. If Bibidon flew into a rage out of humiliation, then the consequences would be TSK. Just thinking about it made him scared. Lu Yuan activated his polychoria, and a white light flashed. 2 rays of light shot out from his polychoria, and a huge hole appeared on the surface of the lake about 10 meters away. The lake water disappeared completely. That's right, it didn't turn into mist, but was directly annihilated. Bibidon's face was full of astonishment. The power of this polychoria was a little scary. The annihilation power within it scared even Bibidon. Of course, this polychoria couldn't hurt her, because the difference in soul power between Lu Yuan and her was too big. However, if Lu Yuan could become a titled soul master one day, then this polychoria would be able to hurt an ultimate Douluo. As for why she said this, it was because Bibidon's current strength was almost at the ultimate Douluo's limit. Her intuition couldn't be wrong. It seemed like her disciple's second martial soul couldn't add soul rings, but its power was even more terrifying than a real second martial soul that could add soul rings. Teacher, this is one of my polychoria's eye skills. It's called chaotic light. Lu Yuan said. One of them? Do you have other eye skills? Bibidon asked. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded. It's just that I don't have enough control over my polychoria, so I can't use other eye skills for the time being. But as my strength increases, I can use them one by one. Bibidon nodded. Obuchi's second martial soul did have limitless potential. In addition to his first martial soul, the Golden Dragon, Obuchi's potential and talent had already surpassed Xiao Shui's, and even her own. He was truly a heaven-defying genius. Bibidon was very satisfied as she looked at Lu Yuan. All right, Obuchi, turn around. She gently patted Lu Yuan's head. After hearing Bibidon's words, Lu Yuan turned around out of habit. But halfway through, he suddenly thought of something and was startled. Not good. Chapter 153. He suddenly forgot that he hadn't retracted his polychoria vision. He hurriedly retracted his vision, but his body had already turned around. How could he retract it in time? In an instant, a large expanse of snow white came into his sight. That seductive posture made Lu Yuan's lower abdomen heat up to his heart. Bibidon's seduction was much stronger than Hulina's and Zhu Zhuqing's. After all, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing were still young and inexperienced, but Bibidon was already mature and in her prime. It was the most seductive period. But Lu Yuan was Lu Yuan, after all. Although he was shocked, he didn't panic. He hurriedly retracted his vision completely, and his face still looked indifferent. But in fact, he was panicking in his heart. But he definitely couldn't show this panic. Otherwise, that result was definitely not something Lu Yuan could bear. Lu Yuan retracted his vision quickly. Although Bibidon felt a little strange, she didn't discover anything in the end. She just felt like she was being spied on. But then she immediately dismissed this ridiculous thought. With her cultivation, who could spy on her other than a god? but she definitely didn't expect that it was this disciple in front of her who saw her beauty. But fortunately, Lu Yuan didn't mention that Polychoria could see through all kinds of strange things. Otherwise, with Bibidan's intelligence, she would definitely be able to connect the dots. After all, based on what Lu Yuan had just shown, in Bibidan's heart, most of Lu Yuan's Polychoria's functions were to attack, but she didn't think of seeing through things. In her opinion, Lu Yuan's Polychoria was only used for fighting. As for other things, she didn't think of them. Lu Yuan was nervous, afraid that Bibidan would discover something. After all, Bibidan's strength was so strong, and her perception was definitely not something an ordinary person could compare to. But after waiting for a while, Lu Yuan found that Bibidan didn't seem to have discovered anything strange. She couldn't help but feel relieved. Thank goodness! Thank goodness! Hulina looked at Lu Yuan with an interrogative gaze. After all, Lu Yuan had just released his pupil light, and his dual pupils hadn't completely retracted his vision yet. If he turned around just like that, wouldn't he see her teacher? If that was the case, then, oh my God! That was too scary. However, neither Lu Yuan nor Bibidan seemed to have any abnormalities. A trace of doubt flashed through Hulina's eyes. Could it be that they really didn't see anything? Teacher, actually, other than me, senior sister has also improved a lot. Lu Yuan was a little flustered and quickly changed the topic. As expected, Bibidan's attention was diverted by Lu Yuan. Oh! Bibidan turned his gaze to Hulina. Being stared at by Bibidan, Hulina could only tell her situation in detail. As Hulina spoke, Bibidan nodded slightly. Inside the house on the island in the middle of the lake, this was Lu Yuan and Hulina's room. Lu Yuan sat on the bed, still feeling some lingering fear. What happened just now was really exciting. He actually saw his teachers. This dual pupils, he had to completely control it as soon as possible. Today, he almost fell for it. Luckily, he reacted quickly and his skin was thick enough. The steadiness from many years of cultivating the clear breath scripture was still there, and his teacher didn't notice anything unusual. Otherwise, he really couldn't guarantee what his teacher would do to him. But to be honest, his teacher's figure was really amazing. As he thought about it, Lu Yuan's thoughts went astray again. He quickly adjusted his state of mind. He couldn't let his thoughts wander. That was his teacher. Don't think about indecent things. Don't think about indecent things. Don't think about indecent things. Slowly exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Lu Yuan's state of mind gradually calmed down. He had to admit that the clear breath scripture was still useful. Even in this aspect, he could quickly calm himself down like water. However, Lu Yuan knew that he still had one more obstacle to overcome. Hulina, this girl, must have thought of something. After all, when he absorbed the clear breath divine seed, he had just finished absorbing it and didn't restrain his vision. As a result, he saw Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing naked. Just now, he had just released the light of chaos and hadn't retracted his divine power, so he turned around. If he said that he didn't see anything, Hulina, this girl, would definitely be suspicious. However, regarding the matter of seeing my teacher's body, I can't admit it even if I'm beaten to death. Lu Yuan thought to himself. No matter how Hulina forced him, he would keep his mouth shut and never compromise. One must know that if he confessed, he would be lenient, or he would be in jail. Resist and go home for the new year. It was better to hide this matter in the bottom of his heart alone. Lu Yuan thought to himself. But why did my teacher leave senior sister alone? It turned out that just now, Bibidan had left Hulina alone, and he had returned first. He had a feeling that there was some secret between these two women. This came from Lu Yuan's intuition as a man. At the pavilion in the middle of the lake, Bibidan and Hulina sat opposite each other. Nana, congratulations on wooing Obuchi. Tell me, how did you do it? Bibidan's lips curled into a smile. It actually felt a little playful. Hulina's pretty face was slightly red. She still remembered that when Lu Yuan had mentioned that he wanted to return to Notting City, when her teacher saw her absent-minded look, he had encouraged her to pursue her junior brother. She didn't expect that she would actually succeed. Now that she thought about it, her success was actually thanks to those few kisses. If it weren't for her forceful kisses and intimate contact which caused some changes in her junior brother's emotions, their relationship definitely wouldn't have progressed so quickly. Thinking of this, Hulina actually felt a little proud. She felt proud of her courage in the past. However, when she thought about how her junior brother had taken in Zhu Zhuqing after just one trip to the ruins, Hulina's pride disappeared. She had taken the initiative to throw herself at him. Zhu Zhuqing didn't have to do anything, and her junior brother took the initiative to look at her body. How could the gap be so big? As she thought about it, Hulina actually felt a little indignant. Moreover, her junior brother hadn't completely retracted his Polychoria divine light just now. Did he see her teachers again? Thinking of this, Hulina suddenly felt a little angry and prepared to teach Lu Yuan a lesson later. Seeing Hulina in a daze, Bibidon couldn't help but call out softly, "Nana." "Ah, teacher?" Hulina suddenly reacted. "Nana, what are you thinking about?" "No, nothing." "Oh, then how did you woo Obuchi? Tell me." Bibidon laughed. Hulina blushed and nodded. Then, she recounted the process of how she wooed Lu Yuan. In the room, Lu Yuan sat cross-legged. Since it was still early, he might as well take some time to cultivate. Now that he was already at level 29, he was only one step away from level 30. So, he had to cultivate well and strive to cross that threshold as soon as possible. Suddenly, the door seemed to be pushed open, and a delicate figure with a fragrance suddenly pounced on him. Lu Yuan couldn't react in time and was pinned down by Hulina. Hulina's pretty face was stiff. "Junior brother, tell me, what did you see today?" Hearing this, Lu Yuan hurriedly quibbled. "Senior sister, I didn't see anything." Chapter 154. Is that so? Hulina glared at Lu Yuan with a pair of foxy eyes. Of course. Facing Hulina's threatening gaze, Lu Yuan didn't react at all, and his face was indifferent. How thick was Lu Yuan's skin? Lying without blinking was just a basic operation. "I don't believe it. You just released your ocular technique today, and your divine light hadn't been restrained yet. You turned around and just happened to meet teacher. How could you not see anything?" Hulina's beautiful big eyes were full of doubt. "Actually, senior sister, you don't know. I had already restrained it a long time ago. When I saw teacher, the power of my Polychoria had already disappeared. Of course, I didn't see anything." Lu Yuan lied through his teeth. "Really?" Hulina's face was still full of doubt. "It can't be any more real," Lu Yuan said. "Then swear." Hulina was silent for a while and said, "Swear? Why do I have to swear? Is an oath something that can be made randomly? You're just blindly playing the zither." Lu Yuan decisively refused. Oh my god, this Douluo continent had a god realm, and there were gods. How could he just blindly swear? He was really afraid of being struck by lightning. "Humph, if you don't dare to swear, then you must be lying to me." Hulina snorted. "Senior sister, look at my sincere big eyes. My eyes are full of truth. Why would I lie to you?" Lu Yuan said affectionately, like a scumbag. To be honest, this was the first time Lu Yuan had lied so openly. He was still a little flustered in his heart, but Hulina shouldn't be able to tell. He couldn't be blamed for this. He really saw Bibidon's body. How could he say such a thing in front of Hulina? Although he believed that Hulina wouldn't tell anyone, this matter was related to Bibidon's reputation after all. No matter what, it couldn't be leaked. So no matter how much trouble Hulina made, he couldn't let it go. "In your eyes, I only see dual pupils," Hulina said. Lu Yuan was speechless. "Senior sister, tell me, when have I ever lied to you?" Lu Yuan changed his strategy and began to play the emotional card. I didn't know before, but I think you're lying to me now. Hulina climbed onto Lu Yuan's body like an octopus. Her pair of big eyes stared intently at Lu Yuan. Upon hearing that, Lu Yuan remained silent. In fact, he was still used to telling the truth, especially when facing his own woman, Hulina. Lying in front of Hulina was actually quite uncomfortable in his heart. Looking at Lu Yuan's silent look, the uneasiness in Hulina's heart became stronger. Perhaps Lu Yuan really saw it. Otherwise, with junior brother's character, it was impossible for him not to swear. When she thought of junior brother seeing the teacher's body, Hulina's heart couldn't help but ache, although she also knew that it was just an accident. If junior brother saw someone else, Hulina wouldn't care. But the teacher was a figure that Hulina regarded as a mother since she was young. Naturally, there would be a knot in her heart. Thinking about it, junior brother might have the same torment in his heart. At this moment, Hulina seemed to understand why junior brother wouldn't let it go. It was because some things really couldn't be said. But what Hulina didn't expect was that although Lu Yuan couldn't say it out loud, there was no such thing as torment. At most, he would feel a little guilty. But even if she understood Lu Yuan, Hulina's heart still felt uncomfortable. She bit down on Lu Yuan's shoulder. This was the first time Hulina threw a tantrum at Lu Yuan. Pain. A bone-piercing pain. Hulina didn't show any mercy in this bite. She bit Lu Yuan's shoulder, causing blood to flow. Lu Yuan endured the pain and firmly suppressed the clear breath scripture's soul power that automatically circulated because of the pain. If he didn't do so, Hulina's silver teeth would be shattered by the soul power of the clear breath scripture. Pushing Hulina's head away, Lu Yuan's eyes carried a rare trace of anger. Hulina, are you rebelling? Facing Lu Yuan's angry gaze, Hulina didn't avoid it. Instead, she looked at Lu Yuan with eyes full of stubbornness. In an instant, Lu Yuan felt that the person in front of him wasn't that gentle senior sister, but Zhu Zhuqing, that wild cat. After all, Hulina had always been obedient. Looking at Hulina's stubborn gaze, Lu Yuan sighed. This matter was ultimately his fault. Even if he didn't do it on purpose, it was still his fault. He also understood Hulina's feelings for Bibidon. He had wronged her. The anger in his eyes gradually dissipated and was replaced by gentleness. Gently hugging Hulina's waist, Lu Yuan slowly kissed Hulina's red lips. Hulina's delicate body trembled, and the stubbornness in her eyes quickly disappeared. Gently closing her eyes, Hulina quietly welcomed him. Forget it, junior brother didn't do it on purpose. Why did he have to hold on to it and not let it go? He wanted to make me sad and embarrass junior brother. As these thoughts flashed through her mind, Hulina took the initiative to welcome him, and the two of them hugged each other tightly. After dinner, Lu Yuan and Hulina returned to their rooms. After washing up separately, Lu Yuan sat at the head of the bed, bored. In his hands, he flipped through a book of self-created soul skills. Recently, he had some new ideas. Junior brother. Hulina leaned on Lu Yuan's shoulder with a docile appearance, without a trace of the stubbornness from before. Does it still hurt? Hulina's white hand touched the wound on Lu Yuan's shoulder. That was the wound she bit, but she only felt uncomfortable in her heart, so she bit down hard. But now, looking at Lu Yuan's wound, her heart was full of heartache. It's okay. Lu Yuan caressed Hulina's jade-like hand and said, It's okay, my skin is rough and my flesh is thick. This wound is nothing. It was just a mere bite. In such a short time, with Lu Yuan's recovery ability, it was actually more or less healed. Junior brother, I was too impulsive, right? Before Hulina could finish her words, Lu Yuan covered her mouth. Once again biting Hulina's red lips, Lu Yuan had a gentle smile on his face and said, There's no need to say these things between us. And Hulina nodded. Junior brother, don't cultivate tonight, sleep with me. Hulina's charming face was slightly red as she said to Lu Yuan. Senior sister, I'm still young now, can you wait for another 2 years? Lu Yuan refused. To be honest, he also wanted to do this kind of thing, but this body developed early, but after all, he was only 9 years old, 2 months away from 10 years old. At such a young age, to do this kind of thing, Lu Yuan's heart was still a little conflicted. After 2 years, he would be 13 or 14 years old, and Hulina would be 18 or 19 years old. That would be the right time. Hearing this, Hulina's charming face instantly turned red and said softly, "Then we won't do that kind of thing, you just hug me to sleep, okay?" Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded, "This is fine." As for cultivation? Was it more comfortable than hugging Hulina to sleep? Lu Yuan made a choice in an instant. Chapter 155. The next day, early morning. Lu Yuan opened his eyes, which were filled with satisfaction. It had been a long time since he slept so comfortably. When he was in the ruins, he had to pay attention to the dangers in the forest and take care of Zhu Zhuqing, so he slept very little every day. After leaving the ruins, he sat in the carriage every day, and sometimes even slept in the carriage. The long journey was very bumpy, which was also very uncomfortable. It was still better to return to the Martial Soul Palace. It was second only to Nodding City. After all, he had lived here for more than 3 years, and this was actually his second home. Looking at Hulina, who was hugging him tightly and hiding her body in his arms, Lu Yuan's eyes revealed gentleness. Ever since Hulina's martial soul evolved from a demon fox to a 9-tailed celestial fox, she had become much more beautiful. If it was said that Hulina's original appearance was inferior to Qianrenyue's by a notch, then now it was at most half a notch. The gap between the two of them was not as big as before. His palm moved gently, only to feel that it was full of smoothness. Lu Yuan could not help but stare blankly. He had forgotten that Hulina had come in naked last night. Thinking about how he felt last night, Lu Yuan could not help but feel a surge of passion in his heart. Senior sister's figure was really good, probably a little bigger than Little Snow's. Chihiro Snow's figure was also very good, just a little small, a little smaller than Hulina, and even more incomparable to Zhu Zhuqing. However, Chihiro Snow's face was the best looking, and his temperament was also the best. What about Hulina? Although she was not small, she was also not big. However, after her martial soul evolved, it seemed to have become a little bigger, which was really a pleasant surprise. As he thought about it, Lu Yuan's thoughts went astray again. He could not help but think of the scene he saw yesterday. If they were to talk about big, then his teacher was the real big one. Moreover, her figure was simply flawless. She was really a perfect goddess. He shook his head violently, shaking off the terrifying thoughts in his mind. What was he thinking? That's my teacher. Woo! Lu Yuan shook his head, but that movement woke up Hulina in his arms. Hulina's hair was messy, and her golden hair was stuck to her face. Her sleepy eyes lost some of her charm, but there was a hint of laziness and cuteness. Lu Yuan looked at Hulina quietly, his eyes filled with adoration. What's the point of thinking so much? It's more important to cherish the people around you. Junior brother. Hulina opened her beautiful eyes. Her pink eyes carried a trace of confusion, as if she had just woken up. However, when Lu Yuan's immortal face entered her vision, all of that confusion turned into bone-deep affection. "Sorry, I woke you up," Lu Yuan said softly as he pressed his forehead against Hulina's. "No, I was about to wake up too." Hulina enjoyed Lu Yuan's closeness, her face full of satisfaction. Among junior brother's 3 women, only she could be so close to junior brother at all times. Chihiro Snow was far away in Heaven Do. Although Hulina didn't know what mission he was on, she knew from Lu Yuan that it would definitely take a long time. Zhu Zhuqing was training on the continent all by herself. She still had to face unknown dangers and challenges. Only she could stay by junior brother's side and enjoy junior brother's love from time to time. Hulina was actually very satisfied. Junior brother. Hulina called softly. What's wrong? Lu Yuan asked gently. Kiss me. Hulina pouted her red lips. Lu Yuan smiled lightly, then directly blocked Hulina's red lips. Hulina responded passionately. Lu Yuan's palm brushed past Hulina's smooth body and went straight up. After being attacked by Lu Yuan, Hulina's delicate body trembled, and her cheeks flushed red. However, she didn't avoid it, and instead responded even more passionately. Feeling the amazing softness in his hand, Lu Yuan's heart burned even more, and he even more passionately asked for more from Hulina. Junior brother, where are you going later? At this moment, Hulina was putting on her clothes. She didn't avoid Lu Yuan at all and asked as she put on her clothes. Usually, Lu Yuan would wake up in the morning to cultivate, but today, he was just sitting there in a daze. Hulina guessed that Lu Yuan might have something to do. I'm going to the Elder Hall later. Lu Yuan's gaze swept past Hulina's delicate body. Although he had seen everything last night, looking at her now still had an amazing temptation. Hulina was indeed a peerless beauty, but it was a pity that he was still too young. Oh! Hulina nodded lightly. It seemed that junior brother was going to meet the high priest. Hulina finished putting on her clothes and came to Lu Yuan's side. She leaned on Lu Yuan and said, Junior brother, let's go wash up. Lu Yuan nodded, and the two of them went to wash up together. After breakfast, Lu Yuan headed in the direction of the Elder Hall. He had gained quite a bit from this trip. Furthermore, with his relationship with the Hall of Elders, it was reasonable for him to meet the Thousand Daos sect. Elder Hall. At this moment the Elder Hall was empty. Only Sendoryu and the Golden Crocodile were there. Seeing Lu Yuan's figure appear, the Golden Crocodile smiled and nodded. You're here? Greetings, High Priest. Lu Yuan first bowed to Sendoryu. Grandpa Golden Crocodile. Then, he greeted the Golden Crocodile. Sendoryu first looked at Lu Yuan with a scrutinizing gaze. According to Golden Crocodile, this kid had dared to flirt with other girls even though he already had share. He was really daring. Did he not know how much weight he was in? Today, he must teach this kid an unforgettable lesson. Sendoryu looked at Lu Yuan with a straight face. The Golden Crocodile at the side. Obuchi, oh Obuchi, who told you to flirt with other girls even though you already have share? Now, even Grandpa Golden Crocodile can't help you. But this is also good. What's so good about those vixens? Share is enough. Don't blame Grandpa Golden Crocodile for snitching. I'm doing this for your own good, for Share's good, for the Martial Soul Palace's good. When Lu Yuan saw Sendoryu's straight face, his heart started to pound. Could it be that this old man wanted to go crazy today? Or, looking at the Golden Crocodile at the side, Lu Yuan understood. It seems that this old man told old Qian about my relationship with Zhu Qing and my senior sister. So, old Qian is going to show me who's boss? However, this young master had come prepared today. I'm not the same person I used to be. Sendoryu looked at Lu Yuan and was about to release his aura to suppress him so that he would obediently ignore the two vixens and focus on Xiao Shui. However, when he felt the aura coming from Lu Yuan's body, he suddenly stopped. His face instantly became amiable, and the pressure in his eyes disappeared without a trace. With a gentle tone, he said, Obuchi, if you don't mind, you can also call me Grandpa. Hearing this, the Golden Crocodile at the side opened his mouth wide. What? Chapter 156. For Sendoryu, there was only one thing that he cared about the most in his life, and that was the Martial Soul Palace. For this, even the continuation of his own bloodline had to be ranked behind it. Back then, Bibidon had devoured Chihiro Disease's angelic divine soul and entered the Rakshasa's secret realm to accept the test of the Rakshasa god. Naturally, her body carried the aura of the Rakshasa god. Why did Sendoryu not only not seek revenge when he knew that Bibidon had killed his son, but he also pushed Bibidon to the throne of the Pope? On the one hand, it was because Bibidon was Chihiro Snow's mother after all, and she had an inseparable blood relationship with Chihiro Snow. On the other hand, it was because Sendoryu felt the aura of God on Bibidon. Moreover, it was not the divine power that was bestowed by God because they served God like oracles. Instead, it was the kind of person who was chosen by God and might inherit God's existence in the future. With the inheritance of God, Bibidon would definitely be able to bring the martial soul palace to new heights in the future. It was also because of this that Sendoryu supported Bibidon to succeed the position of the Pope. The result was just as Sendoryu had expected. The martial soul palace was flourishing under Bibidon's leadership. Moreover, Bibidon's current strength was not much weaker than Sendoryu's. However, Sendoryu did not expect that he would feel the aura of God on Lu Yuan's body today. Moreover, the aura of God on Lu Yuan's body was even stronger than that of Bibidon's. Actually, this was very normal. After all, Bibidon was tested by Luosha. He only had a trace of Luosha's divine power. However, Lu Yuan directly obtained the entire clear air divine seed. How could this divine aura not be dense? Sendoryu was originally very dissatisfied that Lu Yuan was still flirting with other girls when he already had Chihiro Snow. After all, his granddaughter was an existence chosen by the angel god. The fact that she was interested in Lu Yuan was something that he had cultivated in his previous life. How dare he still be half-hearted? But now, after sensing the divine aura on Lu Yuan's body, Sendoryu instantly changed his mind. Moreover, the ancient divine aura on Lu Yuan's body seemed to be of a higher level than the divine power of angels. Sendoryu, who had served the angel god for most of his life, was able to discern this. One had to know that the angel god was a master god, a first-level god. How could there be a god above him? A divine king? Thinking that Lu Yuan had obtained the divine inheritance of such an existence, Sendoryu's heart trembled. The dissatisfaction in his heart towards Lu Yuan's womanizing had long been thrown to the side. What? He has share and is still womanizing? What is this? He's a man. Having 3 wives and 4 concubines is normal. Back then, this old man also had a wife, but didn't I also fall in love with Pasizi? A fair and graceful woman is a gentleman's dream. Speaking of which, although Hulina isn't as pretty as Little Snow, she's still a stunning beauty. It's fine if I take her in. And that Zhu Zhuqing? What? The second daughter of the Xianra Empire's Zhu family is engaged to the Star Luo imperial family? Good job. We were originally going to be enemies with the Star Luo imperial family, but we took in Zhu Zhuqing and broke the Netherworld White Tiger. Good job. In any case, the current Sendoryu was pleasing to the eye no matter how he looked at Lu Yuan. Moreover, although this brat had seduced 2 women, the one he loved the most was still Little Snow. That was enough. Good, with Little Snow who was chosen by the angel god, and Lu Yuan who obtained the inheritance of a divine king, our martial soul palace wouldn't have to worry about not becoming stronger. Unifying the continent was just around the corner. Moreover, if this brat and Little Snow had a chubby child in the future, with this brat and Little Snow's talent, the talent of their offspring would be unimaginable. Then my Qian family would have a successor. Sendoryu's mind instantly turned to 7 or 8 ideas. Looking at Lu Yuan who wasn't too far away, his face was full of smiles. Obuchi, if you don't mind you can also call me grandfather. Grandfather? Lu Yuan naturally didn't mind. He had long since treated Chihiro Snow as his wife. Since Sendoryu was Chihiro Snow's grandfather, then calling him grandfather wouldn't be considered a loss. The golden alligator Douluo was stunned when he saw how close the 2 of them had become in an instant. Can someone tell this old man what's going on? After all, the golden crocodile wasn't someone like Sendoryu. He couldn't feel the divine aura on Lu Yuan's body, so he naturally couldn't understand the reason behind Sendoria's change. Immediately, a pair of flickering eyes looked towards Sendorio. Sendorio ignored the golden crocodile's gaze. Now, he only wanted to build a good relationship with this guy in front of him. He didn't have the energy to pay attention to the golden crocodile. Looking at the golden crocodile's confusion, Lu Yuan smiled slightly. He didn't take the initiative to release the divine aura in his body in vain. Sure enough, Sendoria sensed it. Everything was similar to what Lu Yuan had expected. As long as he displayed the divine aura of the divine aura, then Sendoria would definitely not make things difficult for him. After all, he wasn't the original him now. He was in existence with the power to become a god. With how much Sendoria cared about the Martial Soul Palace, how could he give him a hard time? After all, he was an indispensable help to lead the Martial Soul Palace to become stronger in the future. Obuchi, if you have any difficulties in the future, come and find grandfather. Grandfather will help you. Sendoria's tone was gentle, as amiable as it could be. I got it, grandfather, Lu Yuan said. Come, tell grandfather what you encountered in the ancient ruins of the Xianra Empire. Sendoria guessed that Lu Yuan's god's inheritance must have been obtained in the ruins, but as for what god it was, Sendoria still didn't know. After all, he was only a god's messenger, and he only knew a little about the heavenly realm. He wasn't qualified to know the specifics. Therefore, he was very interested in Lu Yuan's situation. After all, this was an opportunity to learn more about the heavenly realm. Okay. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. With his intelligence, he would be able to hide 2 or 3 lies in 10 sentences of truth. He had tricked the 1,000 Dao flow into going in circles. In any case, this old man might not know much about the realm of the gods. Lu Yuan and Sendoria chatted happily, and occasionally, there were even sounds of laughter. Only the golden alligator Douluo was standing alone at the side. He was in a daze as he watched the two of them chatting happily. So, he was the only one who was abandoned. Heavens, this is so hard for me. 2 hours later, Lu Yuan walked out of the Elders' Hall happily. He was holding a golden token in his hand, with a symbol of a holy sword on it. Beside the holy sword, there were 6 white wings. The angel's token. Only the great consecrator of the Elder Hall, Qian Douluo, had this token. Strictly speaking, it was on the same level as the Pope's token, but in reality, it had more power. The holder of the Pope's token was equivalent to the Martial Soul Palace's elders, but the holder of the Angel's token had the power to mobilize even the elders. Throughout the entire Martial Soul Palace, only Sendorio, Chihiro Snow, and now Lu Yuan had this token. Even Bibidon didn't have it. Chapter 157. With Lu Yuan's eloquence, if he really wanted to make someone happy, it couldn't be any easier. Facing Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing, because they were his women, Lu Yuan didn't want to lie. But in reality, Lu Yuan's ability to lie was very strong. For example, when he was talking to Sendorio just now, Lu Yuan lied and coaxed him. His words were so exaggerated that Sendorio was stunned. Anyway, old man Qian didn't know. In the end, he was coaxed by Lu Yuan until he was happy and obediently handed over the angel token. He even said that if there was anything he couldn't settle, he could look for him. The golden crocodile, who was watching from the side, was dumbfounded. This angel token that was enough to mobilize the elders was handed over just like that? If this brat really made a scene with this angel token, even this old man would have to listen to his orders. This Sendorio usually looked quite smart, but how did he become stupid after being coaxed by Lu Yuan? The golden crocodile wondered if the person in front of him was Sendorio. Didn't he say that he would take care of him? In the angel palace, Sendorio looked at the golden crocodile with a calm expression. Second bro, are you very curious as to why I gave the angel token to that brat? Sendorio said. The golden crocodile nodded. One had to know that Lu Yuan's talent was extraordinary. This was something that he and Sendoryu both knew. But talent was just talent. Right now, Lu Yuan was still young, and his strength wasn't enough. Giving the angel token to him so early was a bit inappropriate. The reason is actually very simple. It's because this brat is the same kind of person as Little Snow. Sendoryu sighed, his tone carrying some inexplicable feelings. On the Douluo continent, becoming a god was the dream of all high-ranking soul masters, especially those who were transcendent Douluo and above. Others might not know, but they more or less knew some legends about gods. And Sendoryu naturally wanted to become a god as well. But as the angel god's messenger, he had absolutely no chance of becoming a god in this lifetime. The moment Little Snow became a deity would be the moment of his death. But he didn't regret it because this was the scene that the angel race had been waiting for 10,000 years. However, he was always worried about what would happen to Chihiro Snow after his death. After all, Chihiro Snow only had one relative, Bibidon. However, the relationship between Bibidon and her was. Therefore, he had always been worried about Xiao Shui. Later, Xiao Shui asked him for help for Lu Yuan and introduced him to Golden Crocodile as a teacher. Only then did Sendoryu officially take notice of Lu Yuan. After a round of assessment in the Elder Hall, Sendoryu recognized Lu Yuan's talent as extremely good. He was barely worthy of Chihiro Snow and had a chance of becoming a god in the future. But today, not only did Lu Yuan's strength increase a lot, he also obtained the inheritance of a god king in the god realm. There was hope for him to become a god in the future. Only then did Sendoryu completely recognize Lu Yuan. If he were to die in the future, Xiao Shui could only be taken care of by this kid. Fortunately, this kid had deep feelings for Xiao Shui. This was something that the experienced Sendoryu could see. Therefore, Sendoryu didn't mind helping Lu Yuan now. With his support, Lu Yuan's path would be easier. Whether it was for Xiao Shui or the Martial Soul Palace, it would be more beneficial. Someone like Xiao Shui? Could it be? The Golden Crocodile reacted. That's right, this kid is also someone chosen by God. Lu Yuan played with the angel token. He knew that from this moment on, he had received the support of the Elder Hall. It seemed that he had gained a lot by saying that the existence of the clear air god seed was the inheritance of a god king in the god realm. At least there were no more obstacles between him and Chihiro Snow. With Sendoryu's support, he wasn't afraid that Chihiro Snow could escape from his grasp. As for whether or not his words would be exposed, Lu Yuan wasn't worried at all. Currently, only Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and Bibidon knew that he had the clear air god seed. The first two were his daughters, and the last one was his beautiful teacher. They were all trustworthy. Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing definitely wouldn't reveal any of his secret. He was confident about this. As for Bibidon, with her relationship with Sendoryu, he didn't believe that Bibidon would tell Sendoryu about him having the clear air god seed. Strictly speaking, Lu Yuan didn't lie to Sendoryu. This clear air god seed was much more advanced than the so-called god king's inheritance. Therefore, Lu Yuan was very calm in his heart. Now that Sendoryu was willing to give him the angel order, it meant that the Elder Palace didn't oppose Bibidon as much. This was also beneficial for his teacher to control the entire Martial Soul Palace. After all, he was still his teacher's disciple. Thinking back to when he saw Bibidon's body yesterday, he felt a little guilty. With his personality, as long as he saw someone else's body, he would definitely take responsibility. However, Bibidon was his teacher, and with Bibidon's current personality, if she knew about this, she would probably get angry and kill him with a slap. Lu Yuan didn't dare to take the risk. He was still too weak, so it was better to hide first. As for Bibidon's guilt, he could only help her in her career. At least, he could help Bibidon get rid of a few future enemies. Thinking about this, Lu Yuan felt like he was thinking about something. It seemed like he could go out and make a plan. Moreover, he hadn't seen Cher for a long time. This time, he could go to Heaven Do to see her. She must be very lonely and tired hiding in the Heaven Do Empire alone. He could go and accompany her. Moreover, there was also Zhu Qing. That girl was also very troublesome. He could inform Sakas and Osfer to inform the Martial Soul Palace to pay more attention to Zhu Qing. Now that he had the Angel Order, Lu Yuan had the authority to mobilize most of the Martial Soul Palace's power. Lu Yuan walked all the way back to the pavilion in the middle of the lake. "You want to go to Heaven Do?" Bibidan stood up and slowly paced back and forth. After a while, she turned back and said, "Go if you want to, but be careful." And, "Thank you, teacher." Lu Yuan smiled. As expected, Bibidan agreed to his request. "This time, you should bring an elder with you. I think you should have the authority to do so now." Bibidan looked at Lu Yuan with a smile that wasn't a smile. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled awkwardly. As expected, he couldn't hide anything from Bibidan. "And I will." Going out alone with a titled Douluo to protect him was also good. Bibidan sighed and stretched out her hand to pat Lu Yuan's head. This immortal-like youth in front of her was her most outstanding disciple. She was still a little reluctant to leave the Martial Soul Palace. Feeling the warmth of Bibidan's hand and the fragrance coming from her body, Lu Yuan couldn't help but think about the wrong things. He scolded himself in his heart and then straightened his mind. Patting Lu Yuan's head, Bibidan said, "Go and tell your senior sister. I'm afraid she'll be the saddest when you leave." Lu Yuan nodded. Chapter 158. After bidding farewell to Bibidan, Lu Yuan returned to his room. Hulina wasn't around. She usually studied at the Martial Soul Academy during the day and would only return at night. As for Lu Yuan, Bibidan had originally planned to arrange for him to study at the Martial Soul Academy. However, Lu Yuan had refused because he didn't think that the Martial Soul Academy could teach him anything. Perhaps the teachers there didn't know as much as he did. Later, Chihiro Snow arranged for the Golden Crocodile to be Lu Yuan's teacher. Since then, Lu Yuan had no time to study at the Martial Soul Academy. How could their teachings compare to that of a rank 98 peak Douluo? Obviously, they couldn't compare. Moreover, the Martial Soul Academy wasn't like the Pontiff's Palace or the Elder's Palace, where the Martial Soul Palace's most trusted aides were all mixed in with the honest folk. If he wasn't careful, his identity could be exposed. For now, his identity still needed to be kept a secret. It would be more convenient for him to act. Since Lu Yuan had nothing to do, he sat cross-legged on his bed and began to meditate. As for why he meditated during the day? Because if he meditated during the day, he could hug Hulina to sleep at night. Wasn't that a good enough reason? Circulating the clear Qi scripture, Lu Yuan entered a meditative state. Lu Yuan entered a meditative state very quickly. Since he had cultivated the clear Qi scripture since he was young, Lu Yuan's mind was able to calm down very quickly. Even in the face of great temptation, Lu Yuan was able to restrain his mind. Otherwise, after sleeping on the same bed as Hulina for so long, facing such great temptation every day, Lu Yuan would have been unable to hold himself back. When it came to self-control, Lu Yuan was actually very strong. Now that he had the clear Qi spirit seed, the vast, boundless, and calm clear Qi spirit seed, it was the best restraint against evil. Respecting the pure and suppressing the impure was not just a saying. Although the clear Qi divine power didn't increase Lu Yuan's fighting power by much, it had a significant effect on Lu Yuan's state of mind. Although the clear Qi divine power was still no match for the killing power of the God-killing spear, with the addition of the clear Qi divine power and the power of the Polychoria, Lu Yuan was able to get rid of the influence of the God-killing spear on Lu Yuan's personality. After all, no matter how strong the God-slaying spear was, it was still Lu Yuan's martial soul. On its own, it wouldn't harm Lu Yuan. The reason why Lu Yuan was constantly affected wasn't because of the god-slaying spear, but because Lu Yuan's resistance wasn't strong enough. He couldn't even withstand a trace of the god-slaying spear's aura. Compared to the host, the god-slaying spear's invasion on others would be 10 times or even 100 times the pressure that Lu Yuan would have to endure. It could be said that even Lu Yuan couldn't predict how much damage the god-slaying spear would cause once it was born. Even Lu Yuan himself couldn't do it. The god-slaying spear, even if it was just a martial soul, surpassed all the god-level weapons and super-god-level weapons in the Douluo continent. It was just that strong and invincible. In his sea of consciousness. His sea of consciousness was originally golden, but ever since the clear Qi divine seed entered it, his entire sea of consciousness had 2 colors. Below his sea of consciousness was a vast golden ocean, and above his sea of consciousness was a white canopy. The god-slaying spear was right in the center of his sea of consciousness. It was quiet and very cold. A little further out was where the clear Qi divine seed was. It floated high up in the sky and emitted an immeasurable amount of white light. It constantly surged into every corner of Lu Yuan's sea of consciousness. Even the golden dragon martial soul beside him was completely enveloped by that white light. The specks of white light seemed to be slowly seeping into the golden dragon. The golden dragon in his sea of consciousness wasn't actually a martial soul, but a martial soul spirit. In fact, every martial soul had a martial soul spirit, which was also known as spiritual intelligence. However, it was very rare for it to appear in the sea of consciousness. Lu Yuan was an exception because he also possessed the bloodline of the golden dragon. Furthermore, it was the bloodline of the 2nd-generation golden dragon, which was extremely pure. Therefore, his martial soul's spiritual intelligence was relatively high. It even formed a martial soul spirit in his sea of consciousness. The existence of this martial soul spirit was undoubtedly a good thing. This was because it was beneficial for the communication between the soul master and the martial soul. At a high level, if a soul master wanted to advance further, he must comprehend the true essence of his own martial soul and truly integrate it with his martial soul. The existence of the martial soul spirit undoubtedly allowed Lu Yuan to be a big step ahead of others. The white light emitted by the clear Qi divine seed enveloped the golden dragon's martial soul spirit. In fact, it was also beneficial for its spiritual intelligence to be enhanced further. At the same time, the existence of the clear Qi divine light also allowed the golden dragon's martial soul to be tainted with a trace of divinity. It was different from the divinity in the soul power. Instead, the divinity was also infused into the martial soul. Once the golden dragon had divinity, it would be a genuine god-tier martial soul. Although the strength of the golden dragon itself wasn't inferior to any god-tier martial soul. Although the existence of the clear Qi divine seed didn't directly enhance Lu Yuan's battle strength, it was beneficial to Lu Yuan in all aspects. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. There was no need to guess. Apart from Lu Yuan, only Hulina could open the door of this room. It turned out that unknowingly, an entire afternoon had passed by in Lu Yuan's meditation. Is junior brother meditating? Seeing Lu Yuan sitting cross-legged, Hulina couldn't help but lighten her footsteps. She gently came to Lu Yuan's side and sat down at the side of the bed. Her jade-like hands supported her fragrant cheeks as she quietly looked at Lu Yuan. Speaking of which, Hulina also hadn't quietly watched Lu Yuan cultivate for quite some time. Thinking back, Hulina quietly watched Lu Yuan for more than 2 years before she unknowingly fell in love with Lu Yuan. There was a kind of immortal face called the cultivating Lu Yuan. His face was cold, his temperament was ethereal, and the existence of the clear Qi gave him a feeling of being otherworldly, as if he was a banished immortal. It was exceptionally attractive. It was because of looking at him for a long time that this face had long been embedded in Hulina's heart. It was an absolutely inseparable part of her life. Hulina quietly watched and couldn't help but be a little infatuated. Senior sister, you're back? Lu Yuan finished cultivating. When he opened his eyes, he saw Hulina looking at him infatuatedly. Lu Yuan said with a smile on his face. I'm back. Startled by Lu Yuan's words, Hulina came back to her senses and habitually leaned on Lu Yuan's shoulder. Lu Yuan gently hugged Hulina's waist, and his right face gently rubbed against Hulina's head. There was a rustling, ticklish feeling. Senior sister, Lu Yuan said softly. Hulina slightly raised her head. I'm preparing to go out and gain experience. Then I'll make a trip to Heaven Do to see Xiao Shui. Lu Yuan slowly said, meeting Hulina's gaze. Hearing this, Hulina's delicate body trembled. Her eyes were filled with sadness and reluctance. When are you going? Wait for another month. This month, I'll spend more time with you in Martial Spirit City. Looking at Hulina beside him, Lu Yuan's heart was filled with pity. He was afraid that he wouldn't be back soon. Speaking of which, he was somewhat reluctant to part with Hulina. Fine, he would spend more time with her before he left. Hulina gently nodded. Although she was reluctant to part with him, she knew that she couldn't change Lu Yuan's mind. She would cherish this last month. Senior sister. Hulina's beautiful eyes were fixed on Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled slightly, and a brilliant soul bone appeared in his hand. I have something for you. Chapter 159. This is. Hulina's eyes widened, her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. This is a skull. Its full name is the Spiritual Enchantment Dream Skull. It was taken from a 49,999-year-old dream demon fox. Its quality is extremely high, and its skull is very complete. It's not inferior to some skulls that are 50,000 years old and above. The key is that it's extremely compatible with you, so I'm giving it to you. Lu Yuan smiled. This, junior brother, I can't accept it. It's too precious. You can use it for yourself. Hulina hurriedly refused. It was so complete and was close to 50,000 years old. Such a soul bone was extremely precious, and could only be found by chance. She hadn't done anything, so how could she accept such a precious gift from Lu Yuan? Furthermore, such a soul bone must be very useful to Lu Yuan. Hearing this, Lu Yuan glared at Hulina. He grabbed Hulina's hand and stuffed the soul bone into her hand. Since I'm giving it to you, it's yours. Why are you still being so polite with me? Furthermore, this skull contains the power of enchantment. It's simply a natural fit for you. If I'm not giving it to you, who else should I give it to? But, no buts. Since I'm giving it to you, you have to accept it. Do you hear me? Lu Yuan stared fixedly at Hulina and pretended to have a fierce expression on his face. Seeing Lu Yuan's performance, Hulina chuckled. However, her heart was filled with gratitude. Junior brother had given such a precious skull to her just like that. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't moved. Seeing Hulina obediently accept the skull, Lu Yuan's smile returned to his face. He hugged Hulina in his arms and gently blew into her ear. That's right. You're my woman. I'm just giving you a soul bone. You still have to be so polite with me. Hearing this, Hulina glanced at Lu Yuan reproachfully. However, she didn't refute him. To be honest, this skull was indeed very suitable for her. Junior brother, where did you get this skull? Hulina gently rubbed her left cheek against the side of Lu Yuan's face. Their lips inadvertently brushed against each other, instantly creating a series of sparks. Lu Yuan gently held Hulina's red lips and kissed her for a while before slowly letting go. Lu Yuan gently pressed his forehead against Hulina's. He stared into Hulina's pink eyes and said softly, speaking of which, the origin of this soul bone is quite coincidental. It's also quite thrilling. Hearing this, Hulina looked at Lu Yuan curiously. She was even more interested. After all, Lu Yuan had been with her since they were young. When did he get this skull? Hulina couldn't help but want to find out. Speaking of this skull, I still have to mention the ruins left behind by the goddess of life. Alright, go ahead. That day we entered the ruins together. In the end, we were affected by the teleportation formation and were sent to different places. Alright. Hulina nodded. She still remembered this very clearly. When she realized that Lu Yuan wasn't by her side, she was extremely anxious. She desperately searched for Lu Yuan for a long time, but she couldn't find him. She was disappointed for a long time before she slowly recovered. She would never forget this feeling of disappointment in her life. The feeling of losing Lu Yuan was as if the world had lost its color. If she hadn't kept telling herself that her junior brother would be fine, she probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. She probably would have broken down a long time ago. Therefore, that feeling was still fresh in her mind. When I realized that you weren't by my side, I searched for a long time. In the end, I walked into the forest. About half a day after I entered the forest, a layer of white fog suddenly appeared. I actually found Xiao Shui's figure in it. Hulina exclaimed and said, "Isn't Chihiro's snow far away in the Heaven Do Empire?" Yes. At that time, it was because of this that I felt that something was wrong. I was vigilant and wanted to expose her, but in the end, senior sister's figure appeared. What? Hulina's red lips were wide open. Could it be? That's right. It was that dream demon fox who pretended to be you. She first exposed Xiao Shui's fake identity and wanted to gain my trust. Then, she went up to fight with the fake Xiao Shui and pretended to be injured. After I saved her, she attacked me from behind. Hulina's face turned pale. Then aren't you in danger? Thinking of the situation that Lu Yuan was in, Hulina's face turned pale. It was very dangerous, but fortunately, I was vigilant and found a flaw. In the end, when the dream demon fox wasn't paying attention, I pierced her heart with my spear. Later, when I was searching the corpse, I found this soul bone. Speaking of which, I was really lucky. If that dream demon fox hadn't tried to tempt me and attacked me directly, I would have been dead. After all, I was definitely not a match for a nearly 50,000-year soul beast. Fortunately, it was a dream demon fox and was proficient in spiritual power, but its physical defense was weak. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to pierce through its heart. Now that I think about it, it was really a bit dangerous, Lu Yuan said with a sigh. Hearing this, Hulina tightly hugged Lu Yuan's waist and stuck her face close to him, afraid that he would disappear. Lu Yuan's description of how dangerous it was made Hulina's heart palpitate. She didn't think that Lu Yuan would actually encounter a nearly 50,000-year soul beast alone. How dangerous was that? Fortunately, junior brother was blessed by the heavens and managed to escape in time. He even obtained an excellent quality skull. Lu Yuan smiled and hugged Hulina's delicate waist. His voice became serious. After this incident, I learned a lesson. Having a strong physique is indeed a very important thing. Senior sister, you can't just focus on increasing your spiritual power. Your physique must also be improved. Junior brother, there's no need. Tempering the physique is very difficult. Hulina acted coquettishly. She was a control-type soul master and was good at charming people. Her physical strength wasn't strong, and tempering the physique was much more difficult than cultivating soul power. She didn't want to do it. No, you have to go. Moreover, I want your body to be as strong as an assault-type soul master of the same rank. Otherwise, I don't want you. You decide for yourself if you want to temper your physique. Lu Yuan said. No way, junior brother. Hulina opened her eyes wide. That's it. Do you want to do it or not? Lu Yuan said. I'll go. Hulina looked at Lu Yuan with a wronged expression. Her foxy eyes were full of blame for Lu Yuan. Senior sister, don't blame me. It's just that you spirit-type soul masters' bodies are too weak. It's very easy for you to get injured. I'd rather see you sweat a liter every day than see you get injured and lose a drop of blood. Do you understand, senior sister? Lu Yuan looked at Hulina closely, his eyes full of concern. Spiritual-type soul masters were indeed powerful. However, once their spirit-type soul skills lost their effectiveness, their weak bodies were practically defenseless. In the original story, Tang San's purple demon eyes were immune to Hulina's charm. When she encountered Tang San, Hulina in the original story was practically powerless. This was something that Lu Yuan absolutely wouldn't allow. His woman absolutely couldn't be such a fatal threat. Chapter 160. Seeing the concern in Lu Yuan's eyes, Hulina felt a surge of warmth in her heart. The reason why her junior brother was forcing her was because he cared about her. The resistance in Hulina's heart instantly vanished. Not only did she decide to properly train her physique, she also wanted to achieve great results and make her junior brother proud of her. Hulina secretly set a goal in her heart. "All right, junior brother, I promise you," Hulina said. "Senior sister." Lu Yuan gently rubbed Hulina's cheek. "Your martial soul has already evolved from a demon fox to a nine-tailed celestial fox. The nine-tailed celestial fox is a superb martial soul that is equally strong in both charm and physique. Therefore, as long as senior sister is willing to work hard, it won't be difficult for you to catch up to an assault-type soul master of the same rank. Junior brother, I also won't give you that kind of mission that you can't complete." Lu Yuan wasn't lying. The nine-tailed celestial fox's charm was naturally the best in the world, but its physique wasn't inferior to a top-notch beast soul. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to be ranked as a superb martial soul. Now that Hulina's body had life spirit energy tempering her physique, as long as she worked hard enough, it wouldn't be difficult to increase her physique. However, he was afraid that she wouldn't be willing to put in the effort. It was also because of this that Lu Yuan deliberately forced her. Thinking about it, with Lu Yuan's feelings for Hulina, how could he really let Hulina do that kind of impossible mission? As long as her physique caught up, coupled with the nine-tailed celestial fox's ultimate charm, Hulina wouldn't have any shortcomings. Then, he could rest assured. In this way, even if she met a special soul master, her charm would be ineffective, and Hulina wouldn't be unable to resist. "Senior sister, how's your comprehension of the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions that I gave you last time?" Lu Yuan suddenly thought of something and asked. Hulina's pretty face revealed a trace of embarrassment as she said, "I only learned a little bit. This Phoenix Dance of the 6 illusions movement technique was too profound." She had never practiced martial arts before and was unable to understand some of the terms, so it was rather difficult for her to cultivate it. Therefore, she spent very little time on it and had only learned a little bit of it up until now. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's face darkened. "So this is your attitude after I gave you my movement technique?" Junior brother. Seeing that Lu Yuan's expression was not right, Hulina knew that Lu Yuan was definitely angry. She quickly activated her innate skill, coquettish. Hulina gently rubbed Lu Yuan's cheek with a pitiful look in her eyes. "Don't give me that." Lu Yuan glared at her and said, "From tomorrow onwards, don't go to the Martial Soul Academy. I'll personally supervise your cultivation of the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions. If you don't master it, don't even think about going anywhere." "It can't be, junior brother." Hulina was anxious. Although she liked to stay by Lu Yuan's side, she didn't like the feeling of being confined. Moreover, she couldn't go anywhere. For someone as active as her, this was torture. She still wanted to go shopping in the Martial Soul City. "Junior brother." Hulina pulled Lu Yuan's hand and swung it left and right. Her face had an aggrieved expression. Coupled with her beautiful face, it really made people feel pity for her. "Don't act coquettishly with me. I won't fall for it. It's decided." Lu Yuan directly ignored Hulina's coquettish act. This girl was treating his good intentions as ill intent. The Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions was an exquisite movement technique. Others couldn't obtain it even if they wanted it, but this girl actually threw it to the side. How could Lu Yuan not be angry in his heart? If I don't go to the Martial Soul Academy for a long time, my brother will be anxious. Hulina immediately used Evil Moon as a scapegoat. However, she was wrong. Lu Yuan didn't care about Evil Moon at all. Then let him be anxious, Lu Yuan said indifferently. The teachers at the Martial Soul Academy will also be anxious. I'm a top student of the Martial Soul Academy. If I don't appear for a long time, they will definitely panic. Hulina continued. It's fine. I'll let the chrysanthemum Douluo inform them. You can practice in peace. Hearing this, Hulina's heart skipped a beat. However, in the blink of an eye, another idea came to her mind. This time, she was sure that she could convince her junior brother. Junior brother, didn't you say that you wanted me to train my body? But if I stay to practice my movement technique, I won't have time to train my body, Hulina said. She felt that this reason was perfect. This was Lu Yuan's own words. He had no reason to refute it. Thinking about how she could freely go shopping, Hulina couldn't help but narrow her eyes. Of course, she still had to accompany her junior brother most of the time. After all, he was her most beloved junior brother. As for the rest of the time, she could visit her teachers and go to the academy to play. As for her brother, she could just find some time to visit him. There was no need to waste too much time. Hulina couldn't help but think to herself. After hearing Hulina's words, Lu Yuan smiled slightly. His smile was very gentle, but for some reason, it made Hulina feel a chill. It was as if something bad was about to happen. Train your body? Lu Yuan asked. Yes, yes. Hulina nodded. I have an idea. When you practice your movement technique, you can carry a few stones on your back. This way, you can train your body and practice your movement technique at the same time. After saying this, Lu Yuan revealed a very bright smile. Oh no. Hulina's expression changed instantly. She finally knew where the bad premonition came from. Just accept your fate, my good senior sister. Lu Yuan tapped Hulina's nose. His smile was bright and warm. But in Hulina's eyes, it was like a devil's smile. A month's time passed in the blink of an eye. In this month, Lu Yuan resolutely carried out his own word. Every day, he would carry out a task, which was to urge Hulina to practice her movement technique. Only Lu Yuan could come up with the idea of carrying a few dozen kilograms of stones to practice the Phoenix Dance 6 illusions. Every day, when he saw Hulina's clumsy steps, which didn't have the elegance of a phoenix and instead had the dullness of a duck, Lu Yuan had the urge to laugh. That look of him trying to hold back his laughter always made Hulina stomp her feet. Every time after training, she would pounce on him and fiercely bite him a few times before she was willing to stop. In this month, with Lu Yuan's devoted guidance, Hulina's grasp of the Phoenix Dance 6 illusions had increased by a lot. She had already reached the realm of small success. After all, Hulina's talent was very high. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been taken in as a disciple by Bibidon. And with the small success of the Phoenix Dance 6 illusions, there was no doubt that Hulina's speed had increased by a lot. After a month's time, after reluctantly bidding farewell to Hulina, Lu Yuan also embarked on his journey to the Heaven Do Empire. Of course, he brought along a titled Douluo to protect him. He wasn't a consecrator from the consecration hall, but an elder who hadn't appeared in the original novel. His soul power was only at rank 93, and he kept a low profile in the Martial Soul Palace. Even in the outside world, very few people had seen him. However, a rank 93 titled Douluo was more or less enough to protect Lu Yuan's safety. One had to know that even Chihiro Snow only had 2 titled Douluo by his side, the Snake Spear and the Thorny Pufferfish, and their soul power was only at this level. After a long journey, Lu Yuan finally arrived at Heaven Do City. Chapter 161. Heaven Do Imperial City. Lu Yuan was dressed in white, his long black hair draped over his shoulders. He walked alone on the streets of the Heaven Do Empire, his aura elegant and unrestrained, making him stand out from the crowd. Lu Yuan's clothes weren't luxurious, but upon closer inspection, one could see that they were made of high-quality cloud silk. It was low-key, but it didn't lose its taste. Lu Yuan walked calmly, not caring about the curious gazes from the crowd. He had seen such gazes many times. After all, with his temperament and appearance, as long as he walked in a crowd without a mask, he would always be the first to attract attention, especially those young ladies. Heaven Do Imperial City? Not bad. Heaven Do Imperial City was indeed the capital of the Heaven Do Empire. In terms of prosperity, it wasn't much worse than Martial Spirit City. It was even more luxurious than the other capital of the Xianra Empire, Star Luo City. However, this was understandable. The Xianra Empire believed in iron and blood, and valued strength. Although they also coveted pleasure, there was a limit to it. However, the Heaven Do Empire was even more decadent. The nobles coveted pleasure and indulged in a life of luxury. Naturally, the imperial city was more prosperous. Sometimes, the strength of a country could be gauged from the atmosphere and prosperity of the cities under its rule, as well as the actions of the people, especially the actions of the upper echelons. From Lu Yuan's point of view, the Heaven Do Empire had already decayed to a certain extent. Along the way, he had already seen quite a few places where people could seek pleasure and make merry. Such things basically didn't exist in Martial Spirit City. With Bibidan's leadership and powerful methods, even if some of the upper echelons had the same thoughts, they didn't dare to try it out because of Bibidan's might. This was because goods could only be produced when there was a market. The reason why the Heaven Do Empire had so many entertainment venues was inseparable from the actions of the nobles and royalty. This was because these high-end entertainment venues never catered to the commoners. They only catered to the nobles. For the upper echelons of a country to be so decadent, it wasn't unreasonable for Old Man Qian and Cher to set their sights on the Heaven Do Empire first. Looking at the distant group of palaces, that was the true core of the Heaven Do Imperial City. Cher was right there. After turning a corner, the street was empty. Lu Yuan stopped in his tracks. A figure suddenly appeared. It was an old man in a gray robe. "Young Master Yuan, are we going to meet the young miss directly?" The old man appeared without a sound. His methods were so powerful that it made people speechless. However, Lu Yuan's expression remained calm. He was not surprised by the old man's appearance at all. "No, let's go to the Martial Spirit Temple in Heaven Do first. I need Salah's help," Lu Yuan said as he put on that familiar golden mask. "Yes," the gray-robed man replied. Lu Yuan felt that going to see Xiao Shui empty-handed after not seeing her for more than a year wasn't something a man should do. It was more important to prepare the gift first. The gray-robed man followed closely behind Lu Yuan, and the two of them walked towards the Martial Spirit Temple together. This black-robed man was called the Frenzy Rhino Douluo. His martial soul was the Herculean Rhino. It was considered a high-grade martial soul, and could barely be considered a top-grade martial soul. He was almost 100 years old this year, and was a rank 93 titled Douluo. However, his potential had been exhausted, and he would probably be stuck at this level for the rest of his life. The Frenzy Rhino Douluo was not outstanding among the many elders of the Martial Spirit Palace. He was originally a Soul Douluo who did not have the opportunity to become a titled Douluo. After that, he joined the Martial Soul Hall in order to become a titled Douluo. Back then, the Golden Alligator Douluo pitied him and helped him. Only then did he become a titled Douluo. Therefore, the Frenzied Rhino Douluo had always followed the Golden Alligator Douluo's lead. He also only listened to the Elder Palace's orders. As he had always been in the Martial Spirit City, Most people outside did not know that he had joined the martial spirit palace and had become a titled Douluo. It was also because of this that Lu Yuan brought him along. If it were anyone else, his identity might be exposed, but the frenzy rhino Douluo would not. Perhaps it was because Lu Yuan was the successor of the golden crocodile, and he also had the angel's token, so the frenzy rhino Douluo was very respectful towards Lu Yuan. Martial Spirit Temple. Sokka's looked at the young man in front of him with a respectful expression. There were only 3 people in the huge temple, Lu Yuan and the frenzy rhino Douluo. Lu Yuan removed the mask on his face. Although Sokka's was blinded by greed, he was still loyal to the martial spirit palace, and would not expose his identity. Sokka's looked at the young man in front of him with a respectful expression, and asked, "Young Master Yuan, do you have something that you need me to do?" It wasn't that Sokka's was trying to curry favor with Tang Wulin. Instead, it was just that the young man before him was far too extraordinary. He was the disciple of the current Supreme Pontiff, and he was the successor of the golden alligator Douluo. Furthermore, he possessed the great deacon's angelic badge. How could Sokka's not be moved by such a young man? Furthermore, there were rumors among the higher-ups of the martial spirit city that this young man was extremely talented, and had the support of both the Supreme Pontiff and the Elder Palace. It was very likely that he would become the next holy disciple in the future. Sokka's felt that he had to cling onto such a thick thigh. Furthermore, this young man had a bona fide titled Douluo backing him up, while Sokka's was only a rank 89 soul Douluo. He couldn't afford to offend him at all. Lu Yuan looked at Sokka's in front of him with a cold expression and a cold aura. Apart from his women and his family, he almost always had this cold expression on his face. "There are 2 things that I need your help with," Lu Yuan said softly. "Please tell me, young Master Yuan." A gentle look flashed across Lu Yuan's eyes as if he had thought of something. However, his voice was still cold. "First, I want you to inform all the martial soul palace branches in the Heaven Do Empire to keep a close eye on a female soul master called Zhu Zhuqing, and provide her with help when she needs it. Do as she asks. Remember, it's any request." The Heaven Do Martial Soul Palace was the highest existence in the Heaven Do Empire, and it was in charge of all the martial soul palace branches in the Heaven Do Empire. With Sokka's methods, he could pass down this order to all the branches in the Heaven Do Empire in the shortest time possible. Of course, it was not just the Heaven Do Empire, it was the same for the Star Luo Empire. Lu Yuan had already sent a letter, and Osfer should receive this news soon. Zhuqing, I've really gone to great lengths for you." Since Zhu Zhuqing wanted to train alone, he naturally wouldn't stop her. However, he had to do his best to ensure her safety. "Yes, young Master Yuan. I understand. What's the second thing?" Even though Sokka's really wanted to know the relationship between this female soul master called Zhu Zhuqing and young Master Yuan, he knew that this wasn't something that he should be asking about. Chapter 162. For someone like Sokka's, who had been around for decades, they knew exactly what they had to do. The second thing is easy to do. Do you know any good tailors? I want to order some clothes. Order clothes? That's easy. Sokka's thought it would be something difficult. He didn't expect it to be just a few clothes. This was a piece of cake for him. What material do you want, young Master Yuan? Gold silk or cloud silk? Sokka's asked. Lu Yuan flipped his palm and a snow-white pelt that was about 3 meters long and 2 meters wide appeared in his hand. It was a complete piece of snow-white fur. This is it. I want to use it to make a few fox fur coats for women. I want them to be as beautiful as possible, Lu Yuan said. This fur. Sokka's looked at the pure white fur in front of him, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Young Master Yuan, if I'm not wrong, this seems to be the fur of a dream demon fox. It's quite old, isn't it? Lu Yuan glanced at Sokka's and said, This is the fur of a dream demon fox that's close to 50,000 years old. It's very complete and it's quite precious. That's why I want to make a few fox fur coats. I'm sure Bishop Sakas knows some talents in this field, right? Lu Yuan didn't believe that Sakas, the palace master of the Heaven Do Empire's martial spirit temple, couldn't find a tailor who could make fox fur coat. Don't worry, young Master Yuan. Leave it to me. Sakas immediately agreed. To him, this was just a small matter. That's good. Lu Yuan nodded. He put on his mask, turned around, and got ready to leave. When do you want it, young Master Yuan? I'll send someone to deliver it to you. Sakas asked as he looked at Lu Yuan's back. 3 days later. Send someone to deliver it to the biggest Star Blue Hotel in Heaven Do City. I'm staying there, Lu Yuan said. Yes. Sakas said respectfully. Young Master, where are we going now? Directly to the Star Blue Hotel? After leaving the martial spirit temple and walking for some time, Lu Yuan removed his mask. At this moment, the frenzy rhino Douluo, who had been hiding all this while, suddenly asked. There's no rush for now. Let's take a stroll around Heaven Do City first and get a better understanding of the city, Lu Yuan said. Lu Yuan liked to be prepared. Since this was his first time in Heaven Do City, he had to be clear about the basic situation. Although Lu Yuan had already learned some things from Sakas, he still wanted to see the rest with his own eyes. Lu Yuan toured all of the more famous places in Heaven Do City with the frenzy rhino Douluo, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Is this the fox fur coat made from the fur of the fantasy fox? Looking at the exquisite fox fur coat in front of him, Lu Yuan's eyes revealed a trace of satisfaction. There were 4 fox fur coats, 3 for women and 1 for men. That fellow, Sakas, had sharp eyes and actually made a set for him. However, 3 for women didn't seem to be enough. 1 for Chihiro Snow, 1 for Zhu Zhuqing, 1 for Hulina, and 1 for his teacher. Lu Yuan thought for a moment and eliminated Hulina. After all, he had already given her the most precious skull. She didn't have a share of the remaining fox fur coat. Lu Yuan chose the most extravagant of the 3 fox fur coat. There were even exquisite golden embroidery on it. This kind of luxurious design was most suitable for Xiao Shui, because her aura was inclined towards holiness. As for the remaining 2, he could give them to Zhu Qing and his teacher. Lu Yuan distributed them and put the remaining 2 into his astral ring. He planned to give them to the 2 of them in the future. Now, he could go and see Xiao Shui. Heaven Do Imperial City, Crown Prince's residence. Chihiro Snow, who was disguised as Shueqinghe, sat alone in the study of the Crown Prince's residence. He held a pen in his hand and was going through some documents. As his performance became better and better, the Snowy Night Emperor also slowly handed over some administrative matters to him. It seemed like he was testing his abilities. However, this was a good thing. The more this was the case, the more important the Snowy Night Emperor was to him. His position as the Crown Prince was also becoming more and more secure. When the time was right, he would poison the Snowy Night Emperor to death. Then, he would become the new Emperor of the Heaven Do Empire. He would be able to help the Martial Soul Palace control the vast Heaven Do Empire without any effort. When he attacked the Xianra Empire, he would be able to unify the entire continent. Suddenly, a figure flashed, and an elder appeared in front of Chihiro Snow. When he saw this elder, Chihiro Snow's expression turned serious. He said, "What's the matter?" This elder was one of the 2 titled Douluo who had been guarding Chihiro Snow, the snake spear Douluo. There's a letter from the head consecrator. There were only 2 people in the study, Chihiro Snow and the snake spear Douluo. Hence, they didn't have any reservations. Oh! Chihiro Snow raised his eyebrows and said, "Let me take a look." The snake spear Douluo took out an envelope and passed it to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow opened the letter and read it carefully. His expression changed a little. He softly said, "So he's here." There was a tinge of nostalgia and joy in his voice. "Who's here?" the snake spear Douluo asked. "Who else can it be? It's that rascal with the surname Liu." As Chihiro Snow spoke, his joyful expression became a little annoyed. He lowered his voice and said, "According to grandfather's letter, this fellow should have reached the Heaven Do Empire 3 days ago. However, he hasn't come to see me yet." "Then what has he been doing these 3 days?" Chihiro Snow was a little angry. They hadn't seen each other for almost 2 years. "Doesn't this fellow miss me at all?" "He's been in the Heaven Do Imperial City for 3 days, but he hasn't come to see me." "How ridiculous! Is it young Master Yuan?" the snake spear Douluo reacted. He recalled the young man who was also extremely talented. His young master had always been thinking about him. "It's that rascal." Chihiro Snow gritted his teeth. "When I see him one day, I'll teach him a lesson." Seeing how furious Qianrenshu was, the snake spear Douluo hurriedly maintained his silence. This wasn't something that he could interfere in. However, seeing how furious his mistress was, Mr. Yuan was going to be in trouble. Young Master Yuan, good luck." The snake spear Douluo lowered his head. At this moment, another elder in black walked in. It was another titled Douluo, the thorny pufferfish Douluo. "Crown Prince, there's an old friend outside who wishes to see you." "An old friend?" Chihiro Snow frowned. However, he immediately thought of something. He gritted his teeth and said, "Let him in." Liu Yuan wore a golden mask and strode into the study. He looked at Chihiro Snow, who was pretending to be Shueqinghe. He gently removed his mask and revealed a smile on his fairy-like face. "Cher, long time no see." Chapter 163. Cher, it's been a long time. A warm smile appeared on Liu Yuan's cold face. After more than a year, he finally saw the Xiao Shui that he had been missing for so long. "Yes, it has indeed been a long time." Chihiro Snow looked at Liu Yuan and said with a fake smile. Seeing this, the two titled Douluo, Snake Spear and Thorny Pufferfish, seemed to feel that something was wrong. They left the room and closed the door. Only Liu Yuan and Chihiro Snow were left in the large study room. Liu Yuan stared at Chihiro Snow. Currently, Chihiro Snow was still wearing Shueqinghe's appearance. Her aura was quite refined, but in Liu Yuan's eyes, it was a little strange. He didn't want to see a man's face. Wasn't Xiao Shui's beauty more pleasing to the eye? "Cher, don't tell me you're going to see me with this appearance," Liu Yuan said. "Ha ha!" Hearing this, Chihiro Snow laughed coldly. Her voice was crisp, but when paired with that man's face, the strange feeling was even stronger. Qianrenshue's jade-like hand brushed across his face, as if she had removed a mask. In an instant, the originally refined Shueqinghe had once again transformed into that devastatingly beautiful woman, Qianrenshue. Liu Yuan carefully sized up Chihiro Snow's beautiful face. Beautiful golden hair, flawless snow-white skin, a high nose bridge, and 2 slender willow-leaf eyebrows added a heroic aura. Her angelic face didn't seem to belong to this world, and that high and mighty divine aura added a bit of temptation. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Among all the beauties Liu Yuan had seen, Chihiro Snow's beauty was undeniably the best. Her beauty was enough to topple the world. Seeing Liu Yuan staring at her in a daze, Chihiro Snow smiled and asked, "Am I beautiful?" "It's so beautiful that it's simply out of this world," Liu Yuan exclaimed in admiration. "Is she really that beautiful?" Chihiro Snow asked with a sweet smile. "Well, I never lie," Liu Yuan said solemnly. "Really?" Chihiro Snow walked slowly towards Liu Yuan. He realized that Liu Yuan, who was half a head shorter than him, had already caught up with him. It had only been a little more than a year. Was Liu Yuan injected with hormones? Looking at Liu Yuan's fairy-like face, Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes slightly blinked. After not seeing him for more than a year, this stinking fellow had grown even more handsome. Moreover, his temperament was otherworldly. Among all the people that Chihiro Snow had met, no one could compare to him. Cher. Lu Yuan called out softly as he looked at Chihiro Snow, who was only 2 steps away from him, and smelled Chihiro Snow's enchanting fragrance. Seeing the deep affection in Lu Yuan's eyes, Chihiro Snow's originally somewhat angry mood calmed down a lot. However, she still hadn't forgotten about that matter. Qian Rinxue stretched out her jade-like hand and gently adjusted Lu Yuan's collar. She casually asked, "When did you come to Heaven Do Imperial City?" Her tone was very casual, as if she was just asking casually. Lu Yuan didn't suspect anything. 3 days ago. Oh! Chihiro Snow gritted her teeth and asked again, "Then what have you been doing for the past 3 days?" Lu Yuan casually said, "Nothing much, just strolling around Heaven Do City." This wasn't a lie. He had indeed been strolling around Heaven Do Imperial City to understand the situation. Is that so? Chihiro Snow clenched her fists. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded. Since that's the case, then die, you stinking bastard. Chihiro Snow suddenly exploded and punched Lu Yuan in the face. The sudden attack from Chihiro Snow caused Lu Yuan to stumble back a few steps, and a bruise appeared on his face. Fortunately, it was just a simple punch, and Chihiro Snow hadn't used her angelic soul power. Cher, what are you doing? Suddenly being punched in the face by Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan was stunned, and a trace of anger rose in his heart. However, the person in front of him was Chihiro Snow, so Lu Yuan controlled his temper. If anyone else had dared to treat him like this, he would have already slapped them. What am I doing? Young Master Lu, you've had a lot of fun these past 3 days. Why are you looking for me? Haven't you forgotten about me long ago? Chihiro Snow's voice carried a trace of grievance. She was Chihiro Snow, the holy maiden of the Martial Soul Palace. She possessed a divine-ranked martial soul, the 6-winged angel, and her innate soul power was at rank 20. She was also the chosen one of the angel gods. She was truly a proud daughter of the heavens. For the man in front of her, she had begged her grandfather for the golden crocodile to accept him as a disciple. Now, for the sake of the Martial Soul Palace's grand plan, she had hidden herself in the Heaven Do Empire alone, and suffered a lot. But this man in front of her hadn't seen her for more than a year, and the first thing he did after coming to Heaven Do Imperial City was to take a stroll around the city and completely forget about her. Who was the one who had gone too far? Hearing this, Lu Yuan's anger subsided. He understood what Chihiro Snow was angry about. Cher. Lu Yuan took 2 steps forward and gently grasped Chihiro Snow's jade-like hand. Humph. Chihiro Snow snorted and pulled her hand away. She turned around and ignored Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan blinked and directly pulled Chihiro Snow into his embrace. Chihiro Snow cried out in alarm and began to struggle vigorously. However, Lu Yuan's current strength was so great that he could contend against a Soul Emperor. In terms of strength, Lu Yuan might not be a match for Chihiro Snow, but in terms of strength, Chihiro Snow couldn't break free without her martial soul possessing her body. Furthermore, strength had never been Chihiro Snow's strong suit. Cher, listen to my explanation. Lu Yuan rested his chin on Chihiro Snow's shoulder. His hot breath hit Chihiro Snow's ear as he spoke. Chihiro Snow's delicate body trembled, and she stopped struggling. Her voice was cold as she said, "Speak, I want to see what you have to say." Cher, I've been here for 3 days and didn't come to see you because I wanted to prepare a gift for you. Furthermore, I wasn't here to play these 3 days. I was here to understand the basic situation of the Heaven Do Empire. I've been wanting to see you for a long time, but I couldn't come empty-handed, Lu Yuan said. After hearing Lu Yuan's explanation, Chihiro Snow slowly calmed down and asked Lu Yuan, "Really? Of course it's true, look." Lu Yuan let go of Chihiro Snow and waved his hand. An exquisite fox fur coat appeared in his hand. This is? Seeing the fox fur coat in Lu Yuan's hand, Chihiro Snow's expression revealed a trace of surprise. She was also someone who knew her stuff. This is made from the fox fur of a dream demon fox, and it's not young either. It's at least 10,000 years old. Only fox fur over 10,000 years old can have such quality. Do you like it? Lu Yuan asked. Yes. After hesitating for a moment, Chihiro Snow nodded. Let me put it on for you. Lu Yuan shook off the fox fur coat and draped it over Chihiro Snow's body. In an instant, with the snow-white fox fur coat as a foil, Chihiro Snow appeared even more alluring. Beautiful. Lu Yuan looked at it from head to toe and sighed softly. Really? Chihiro Snow tugged at the fox fur coat on her body. The soft fur was exceptionally comfortable to touch. Chapter 164. Yes, it's true. Lu Yuan nodded his head in satisfaction as he looked at Qianrenxue, who was wearing a white fox fur coat with golden edges. Indeed, little Shue's original peerless beauty had become even more beautiful after wearing the fox fur coat. You only know how to say nice things to make me happy. Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan reproachfully, but there was an unconcealable joy in her tone. The reproach in her heart towards Lu Yuan had long disappeared. Seeing that Chihiro Snow's anger had dissipated, Lu Yuan revealed a trace of a smile. You only know how to smile foolishly. Did I hurt you? Chihiro Snow touched the bruise on the left side of Lu Yuan's face with a trace of concern on her charming face. It's fine, it doesn't hurt at all. Lu Yuan grabbed Chihiro Snow's jade hand and held it in his palm. Having her hand held by Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's eyebrows trembled, and she said angrily, I haven't seen you for more than a year, and you're still the same, only knowing how to touch me. Chihiro Snow said that, but she didn't withdraw her hand. Lu Yuan naturally knew Chihiro Snow's temperament. She was a typical tsundere, obviously very happy in her heart, but deliberately pretending to be disgusted. Ah, woman! Of course, Lu Yuan wasn't stupid enough to say his own thoughts. Holding Chihiro Snow's jade hand, his left hand slowly stroked Chihiro Snow's cheek. Little Snow's beauty is still so flawless, as expected of the woman I have chosen in my life. He, Lu Yuan, was a face lover. This was something he had never denied. Chihiro Snow felt Lu Yuan's hand stroking her face, and there was a trace of shyness in her heart. She had never been so intimate with a man before. This was the first time someone had touched her cheek like this. This feeling was very strange, causing her body to stiffen. However, she didn't know why, but there was an indescribable joy in her heart. Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes stared at Lu Yuan. She really didn't expect this guy to be so bold. After more than a year, he dared to touch her cheek when they met for the first time. Chihiro Snow wanted to stop him, but she didn't know why. Every time she wanted to take action, Lu Yuan's affectionate eyes made her give up her original idea. Forget it, I'll just let him touch me. I'll just treat it as an apology for hitting him just now. Chihiro Snow thought to himself. Thinking of this, Chihiro Snow was willing to enjoy the subtle feeling of Lu Yuan's palm touching her cheek. Lu Yuan gently caressed Chihiro Snow's cheek. Looking at Chihiro Snow's alluring red lips, his heart stirred and he leaned forward. Woo! Lu Yuan's lips were blocked by Chihiro Snow's jade-like hands. Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan with angry eyes. Stinky guy, don't push your luck. Hearing this, Lu Yuan laughed and said, Xiao Shui, don't be so stingy. It's just a kiss. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow helplessly rolled her eyes. This guy in front of her clearly had such a cold face. Why was he so shameless? He actually dared to say such words. However, Lu Yuan's actions made the unfamiliarity between the two of them after not seeing each other for more than a year disappear. The tacit understanding of the past seemed to have returned. Okay, stop fooling around. Chihiro Snow patted Lu Yuan's hand and said, Let's talk about some serious matters. What serious matters? Let's talk about feelings first. Lu Yuan said. Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes widened slightly. Sigh, boring. Lu Yuan sighed and sat down on Chihiro Snow's chair. He didn't mind Chihiro Snow's attitude. Seeing Lu Yuan's actions, Chihiro Snow's face darkened. Get up, this is my seat. It's okay. Isn't your seat my seat? Lu Yuan laughed and moved his butt, revealing half of his seat, and said, Why don't we sit together? Or, Lu Yuan blinked and said, You can sit on my lap. I don't mind. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow was speechless. She looked at Lu Yuan strangely. Of course I know you don't mind. I think you can't wait for it. We haven't seen each other for more than a year. How did this guy's personality become so shameless? Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled. Looking at Qian Renshua's eyes that seemed to have become a little angry, Lu Yuan also knew that he should not continue to make trouble. Xiao Shue's skin was not much thicker than Zhu Qing's. He could not treat her like how he treated his senior sister. Teasing her was enough. If he continued, Xiao Shui would really get angry. Okay, let's talk about serious matters. Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow's hand. His face immediately became serious, and his fairy-like face was full of arrogance and coldness. This man, how did he change his face so quickly? Chihiro Snow was stunned. Lu Yuan's change was too big. Cher, how are you doing in the Heaven Do Empire? When I came, I did some research. You have a pretty good reputation outside. It seems like you've achieved a lot after hiding for more than a year. Lu Yuan looked into Chihiro Snow's eyes. Xiao Shui had been alone for more than a year. She must have suffered a lot. Chihiro Snow said, It's okay. I've gained a firm foothold in the past year. The Snow Knight Emperor has also gradually trusted me and slowly handed over government affairs to me. However, there are still people in the imperial court who oppose me. She didn't hide anything from Lu Yuan. In her heart, Lu Yuan was worthy of her trust. He was the second person she could trust besides Sendoryu. It's Prince Xuexing, right? Lu Yuan said softly. Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan in surprise and said, Yes, for more than a year, I've used some methods to get rid of the second prince and the third prince. Now, among the sons of the Snow Knight Emperor, other than me, who is pretending to be Xuexinghe, there's only that good-for-nothing, Xuebring. Perhaps it's because I acted too hastily and Prince Xuexing discovered something, so he's been opposing me in the imperial court. However, now that I've gained the support of most of the officials, I don't have to worry about Prince Xuexing. However, this guy is a little disgusting. He's always finding trouble for me. However, I can't do anything to him. Otherwise, I'll give myself away and ruin my plan. Chihiro Snow said. Her tone was filled with disgust for Prince Xuexing. Is that so? Lu Yuan didn't say anything. He gently held Chihiro Snow's hand and said, You can't touch Prince Xuexing for now. After all, he's the younger brother of the Snow Knight Emperor. Furthermore, he's not on good terms with you. If he's in danger, you'll be the first suspect. What you're doing now is correct. Chihiro Snow nodded her head lightly. After a moment of silence, Lu Yuan suddenly asked, Cher, what do you think of Avalanche? Avalanche wasn't a simple person. In the original novel, he had always been hiding. In fact, he had some schemes in his heart. It was because he knew that his two brothers were dead that he pretended to be a good-for-nothing. In fact, he had secretly allied with Prince Xuexing. He had always been in hiding, waiting for an opportunity to overthrow Xuexinghe. In the original novel, Shrek's 7 monsters were expelled from the Heaven Do Academy because of Avalanche. Chapter 165. One had to know that the 3 education committee members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy were all Xuexinghe's people and supported the Crown Prince. The reason why Avalanche brought Prince Xuexing along was to prevent Xuexinghe from recruiting Shrek's 7 monsters. Once Shrek's 7 monsters were expelled from Heaven Do, they would naturally direct their anger towards the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. This was killing two birds with one stone. Avalanche. Lu Yuan's words caused Chihiro Snow to be stunned. However, a trace of disdain flashed across Chihiro Snow's eyes as he said, Avalanche is a complete hedonistic son of a wealthy family. He is not presentable. Is that so? Cher, is this how you view him? Lu Yuan played with Chihiro Snow's snow-white hair as he asked. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow furrowed his brows and said, Is there something wrong? Lu Yuan smiled mysteriously and said, Avalanche is not as simple as you think. He is very scheming. The things that you said you understood were just a pretense. Think carefully, when did Avalanche's reputation as a hedonistic son start to spread? If I am not wrong, it should be not long after the death of the second and third princes. The reputation of Avalanche as a hedonistic son began to spread within the Heaven Do Empire. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow was shocked and said, If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have thought about it. Now that you mention it, I do remember. Indeed, not long after I sent people to kill the third prince, the entire Heaven Do imperial city started to spread news of Avalanche's hedonistic name. Furthermore, the speed at which it spread was a little strange. I suspect that someone is purposely spreading it. Bingo! Lu Yuan smiled. As expected of Schwer, to be able to understand with just a hint. Avalanche had disguised himself, and even abandoned himself, all to divert your attention. In truth, he had long allied with Prince Shuexing, and even in the imperial court, there are some people standing on their side. It's just that they are biding their time, and you have not discovered it yet. I see. I was wondering how a prince could fall to such a state. So it was all a pretense. Chihiro Snow was enlightened and seemed to have understood something. However, she quickly turned her gaze towards Lu Yuan and said, I've been here for more than a year and didn't notice anything strange about Avalanche. You've only been here for 3 days. How do you know so clearly? Chihiro Snow stared intently at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan pointed at his own head and said with a smile, Of course it's because of my incomparably smart brain. Narcissist. Chihiro Snow pursed her lips and said, Hurry up and tell me the reason. Ha ha! Lu Yuan chuckled and said, These things were actually deduced by me over the past 3 days. I went to a few of the more famous entertainment venues in Heaven Do City, but coincidentally, I saw Prince Shuexing every time. Almost every time, at different places, there are different people around Prince Shuexing. Moreover, all of them are wearing luxurious clothes and have the majestic aura of someone in a high position. It's fine if it's once, but it's not right if it's always like this. Furthermore, I know that Prince Shuexing's relationship with you isn't good, so I asked the frenzy Rhino Douluo to pay attention to him. Don't you think it was a coincidence that I discovered him discussing something with Avalanche? Avalanche didn't act like a spoiled brat. Lu Yuan chuckled and said, With these things, everything will be clear after some deduction. That's why I didn't waste 3 days in the Heaven Do Empire for nothing. It's rare to see you, so I have to give you a surprise. Do you think the name list of the high-ranking officials who are in contact with Prince Shuexing is a surprise? This time, Lu Yuan was fully prepared. The fox fur coat was only a small gift, but the name list was a big gift. Lu Yuan was sure that Chihiro Snow would like it. What did you say? Chihiro Snow's voice rose a few pitches and became a little shrill. There was a rare look of surprise on her face. If she had this name list, she would be able to control all of Prince Shuexing and Avalanche's forces. This way, she could use targeted methods to eliminate Prince Shuexing's henchmen one by one. This was very important for her to consolidate her position. Then what about the name list? Chihiro Snow asked. Lu Yuan looked at Qian Rinxue with a half-smile and said, Schwer, I've specially prepared this gift for you. Don't tell me you're not going to give me anything in return. Chihiro Snow glared at him and said, Then what do you want? Lu Yuan pointed to his own lips. Chihiro Snow's face instantly turned red. She said angrily, "Don't go overboard. At most, I don't want the name list." How could Chihiro Snow take the initiative to kiss Lu Yuan? If Lu Yuan kissed her, she could pretend that she didn't mind. But if he wanted her to take the initiative, she couldn't do it. "All right, I won't tease you anymore." Lu Yuan waved his hand, and a name list appeared in his hand. He passed it to Chihiro Snow. Lu Yuan said, "The names in the name list might be a little incomplete. Some of them were personally selected by the Frenzy Rhino Douluo. They are all big fish. I used the power of the Martial Soul Temple to investigate the rest. As I was afraid of alerting them, my investigation might not be detailed enough." He had no choice. After all, Prince Xuexing was still a prince. It wasn't easy to investigate his people. If he wasn't careful, he might alert them. Hence, Lu Yuan was very careful. Some of them were hidden very well, but he didn't manage to dig them out. Chihiro Snow took the name list and looked at it carefully. He said, "Indeed, they are all ministers who don't get along well with me. Rascal, you've helped me a lot this time." "Is that so?" Lu Yuan asked. Yes. Chihiro Snow nodded and said, "With this name list, I know who my enemies are. It'll be easier for me to plan from now on." "It's good that I was able to help you." Lu Yuan stood up and leaned very close to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan in front of him and said, "What are you planning to do in Martial Soul City this time? Are you coming to Heaven Do City to help me?" Chihiro Snow's voice carried a trace of anticipation. It was indeed difficult for her to support herself, and she was very lonely. If Lu Yuan were to help her, it would be much easier for her. Lu Yuan said, "Helping you is one thing. I also have my own plans. Can you tell me about it?" Chihiro Snow was a little curious. "Come closer and I'll tell you." Lu Yuan smiled and deliberately lowered his voice, as if he was afraid of being discovered. Chihiro Snow was attracted by Lu Yuan's actions. He took a few more steps forward. At this time, Chihiro Snow and Lu Yuan were less than a foot apart. Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. It was as if his scheme had succeeded. He suddenly took a step forward, wrapped his arms around Chihiro Snow's waist, and sealed Chihiro Snow's red lips with his. Chihiro Snow's body suddenly stiffened after being ambushed by Lu Yuan. Chapter 166. Her red lips were suddenly sealed by Lu Yuan. Chihiro Snow's body suddenly stiffened. Chihiro Snow's eyes widened. She didn't expect this guy to be so bold. Lu Yuan's hands wrapped around Chihiro Snow's waist. Facing Chihiro Snow's shocked gaze, he became more and more engrossed in the kiss. From time to time, he drove Chihiro Snow's rhythm. To be honest, Lu Yuan had kissed a lot now, so he could be considered to have some experience. Under his lead, Chihiro Snow became more and more engrossed, her eyes blurred. Her body couldn't help but relax. Their lips were demanding each other. This was the first time Chihiro Snow felt this. After all, the first time she was kissed was more than a year ago, when she was sneakily attacked by Lu Yuan. However, it was just a simple contact. Although it was a little strange, she didn't have a deep understanding of it. But this time, Chihiro Snow really experienced the feeling of kissing. This feeling was really good. After a long time, their lips parted. Lu Yuan was still holding Chihiro Snow's waist, looking at Chihiro Snow with gentle eyes. The feeling of kissing Chihiro Snow was the best. Although she was very inexperienced, the satisfaction that Chihiro Snow gave him was incomparable to anyone else. This was because the lovely person in front of him was the person he loved the most in his heart. Only Qianrenxue was the woman that he had decided that he must pursue in this life. Suddenly being attacked by Lu Yuan and being intoxicated by it, Chihiro Snow's beautiful face was also a little red. Looking at Lu Yuan, who was leaning his forehead against hers and looking into her eyes, Chihiro Snow bit her red lips and softly spat out a few words. Lecher. Looking at Chihiro Snow's red cheeks, Lu Yuan couldn't help but kiss her red lips and said, Cher, you're so beautiful. After being kissed by Lu Yuan again, Chihiro Snow raised her eyebrows and gritted her teeth. Surnamed Lu, you're still not done? Okay, I was wrong. Lu Yuan said very impolitely. Chihiro Snow wrinkled her nose, but she didn't feel angry. To be honest, this guy's face was really handsome. Even she couldn't resist it. Lu Yuan's shadow was in Chihiro Snow's heart since more than a year ago. Lu Yuan was the first person besides Sendorio who was so close to her and often cared for her. Chihiro Snow lacked love since she was young. She was born with a high status, and no one dared to be friends with her. Only Lu Yuan met her every day in the plum garden. It made her feel the love in her heart again. This feeling was completely different from the feeling Sendoria gave her. Every time Lu Yuan looked at her affectionately, Chihiro Snow's heart would feel sweet. She always knew that Lu Yuan liked her, because Lu Yuan never hid his feelings for her. She, Chihiro Snow, wasn't stupid. Instead, she was a clever girl. How could she not notice this kind of affection? Lu Yuan was also very good-looking. His talent was also very few people who could compare to her. He was also very intelligent. After being together for a long time, how could Chihiro Snow not have a good impression of him? It was just that more than a year ago, Lu Yuan was still a little immature. He was half a head shorter than her, so Chihiro Snow took the initiative to suppress her feelings. However, the kiss that Lu Yuan gave her before she left awakened the feelings that she had been suppressing. This allowed Qianrenxue to face her feelings for Lu Yuan for the first time. However, it was a pity that Lu Yuan had gone to obtain his second soul ring when she was about to go on a mission. That was the last time the two of them met. Over the past year, Chihiro Snow had been hiding in the Heaven Do Empire by herself. Every day, she schemed against each other and eliminated her competitors. In fact, it was very tiring. There was no one by her side to help her or talk to her. Every time she was like this, she would think of the time when she and Lu Yuan could talk about anything. That feeling of being able to talk freely with someone was very good. Her feelings for Lu Yuan were slowly fermenting in this state. In fact, Lu Yuan was already in her heart for a long time. When she found out that Lu Yuan had come to Heaven Do, she was delighted. Then, when she saw that Lu Yuan had been strolling around Heaven Do City for 3 days without coming to see her, she was furious. That was because she was afraid that Lu Yuan no longer cared about her, so she was flustered. In fact, Chihiro Snow was a person who valued her feelings very much. When she saw Lu Yuan again, Chihiro Snow was actually quite surprised. In just over a year, Lu Yuan had changed a lot. Not only had he caught up to her in height, but he had even surpassed her. His appearance had also improved by a lot. His double pupils gave him a special kind of charm. His entire person seemed to be covered in a layer of mist. This man seemed to have matured and become more attractive. More importantly, the way Lu Yuan looked at her was the same as before. That affectionate gaze seemed to want to engrave her in his heart. Chihiro Snow heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she couldn't suppress the joy in her heart. When she found out that Lu Yuan had delayed for 3 days to prepare a gift for her, the resentment in her heart had completely disappeared. Feelings began to slowly surface in her heart. As she stared blankly at Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's thoughts churned. The current Lu Yuan was quite mature, and his charm was growing. It was becoming harder and harder for her to control her feelings. In fact, she didn't seem to want to control her feelings anymore. Furthermore, this guy was really good to her. He was still as concerned about her as before. He had only been in the Heaven Do Empire for 3 days, and he had already helped her so much. That name list was going to be very useful for her future plans. However, this guy's personality seemed to have become even more shameless. He actually wanted her to kiss him. She was a girl, so how could she take the initiative? However, this guy was really bold. If she didn't kiss him, he would take the initiative to sneak up on her. However, this kind of kiss felt really good. Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow, who was in a daze. He smiled and said, "Cher, what are you thinking about?" After being interrupted by Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow reacted. She glared at Lu Yuan and said, "What does it have to do with you?" Lu Yuan was amused by Chihiro Snow's charming glare. Seeing Cher like this, it seemed like she was thinking about something embarrassing and was too embarrassed to say it. Therefore, she was pretending to be arrogant. Lu Yuan turned his gaze and stared at Chihiro Snow's red lip. He had to admit that Cher's red lips tasted really good. They were sweet. Sensing Lu Yuan's gaze, Chihiro Snow raised her guard. "Lu Yuan, don't mess around." Lu Yuan sighed and said, "Actually, I didn't want to do this. Who asked you to be so beautiful?" Chihiro Snow was delighted when she heard this. He was praising her for her beauty. However, her expression didn't change at all. She said, "Don't try to trick me. You're just trying to take advantage of me." As she spoke, her beautiful eyes stared straight at Lu Yuan. Chapter 167. Lu Yuan smiled and said, "That's right, I like to take advantage of you." As he spoke, he suddenly tightened his arms around Chihiro Snow's waist. Chihiro Snow cried out in surprise and was instantly pulled into Lu Yuan's arms. "Lu, let go of me." Chihiro Snow struggled, but she didn't use much strength. Lu Yuan still held Chihiro Snow tightly in his arms. Chihiro Snow was very tall. Even now, she was close to 1.8 meters, almost the same height as Lu Yuan. Speaking of which, ever since the Golden Dragon bloodline awakened, Lu Yuan's height had been increasing rapidly. He was now more than 1.7 meters, just a little bit more and he would be 1.8 meters. However, he still had a month to go before he turned 10 years old. Hugging Chihiro Snow now was much better than it was a year ago. It was much more convenient for him to kiss her. At least he didn't have to tiptoe. "Cher, let me hug you for a while. We haven't seen each other for more than a year. I want to smell your scent." Lu Yuan rested his chin on Chihiro Snow's shoulder. The side of their faces slightly rubbed against each other. Chihiro Snow pursed her red lips and immediately gave up struggling. She let Lu Yuan hug her and felt the warmth of the man in front of her. What an enemy! Chihiro Snow sighed softly in her heart. Her arrogance and holiness were instantly smashed into pieces when she met Lu Yuan. She could only let him take advantage of her. Most importantly, she didn't feel disgusted in her heart. As Chihiro Snow thought about it, she suddenly realized that this guy hugging her was also ordinary. He was obviously arrogant and cold, but he liked to act shamelessly in front of her. He liked to take advantage of her for no reason. However, he was very concerned about her and doted on her a lot. Thinking of this, Chihiro Snow felt much better. So be it. Anyway, it would be very difficult to get rid of this guy in this lifetime. Moreover, Chihiro Snow glanced around. It seemed that there were only the two of them here, so he wasn't that shy. Lu Yuan greedily sucked on Chihiro Snow's delicate fragrance, hugging Chihiro Snow's waist. His heart was calm. The person in his arms was his entire world, the person he cherished the most in his life. "You haven't answered me yet. What do you want to do this time? Are you here to help me? And what are you planning?" Chihiro Snow's voice rang in Lu Yuan's ears. Lu Yuan's mouth twitched helplessly. "Xiao Shui, can't we talk about love? Why do you always talk about such boring business? Are you going to say it or not?" Chihiro Snow lowered her voice and pinched Lu Yuan's waist. Lu Yuan's body trembled. His forehead was full of black lines. "Why do you girls like to use this trick? Zhu Qing is like this, Cher is also like this. AI, senior sister is still the most obedient. I wonder what senior sister is doing now? Is she seriously practicing the Phoenix dance of the 6 illusions?" In the blink of an eye, Lu Yuan's thoughts drifted to Hulina. Hugging Chihiro Snow in his arms, thinking of Hulina in his mind. Amazing! Seeing that Lu Yuan was silent, Chihiro Snow frowned and urged, "Hey, I'm talking to you. Hearing this, Lu Yuan immediately came back to his senses. What should he do? How could he be distracted? If Xiao Shui knew that he was thinking of senior sister when he was hugging her, then he would probably come in vertically and leave horizontally today. He immediately said, "Actually, the main reason I came out this time was to train myself. Of course, helping you is also one of the reasons." Chihiro Snow replied indifferently. She was not very interested. She thought that Lu Yuan would stay by her side to help her. Now, it seemed that was not the case. "Cher," Lu Yuan called softly. "Don't call me, I'm not in a good mood." Chihiro Snow replied sullenly. Lu Yuan suddenly understood. He knew that Xiao Shui must be feeling uncomfortable in her heart. "Cher, listen to me." Lu Yuan felt that he had to explain himself. "Speak," Chihiro Snow said. "Cher, I have my reasons for not staying by your side. Furthermore, I really can't stay with you for long," Lu Yuan said. His identity might be hidden for a while, but it would be exposed one day. When that happened, it might affect Cher, and affect Cher's concealment. Concealing his identity and staying by Cher's side was not a good idea either. He still had to divide Shrek's 7 monsters, set up his own goals, establish his own power, and increase his strength. He couldn't hide forever. This was not in line with his character. His Tao was to constantly improve himself through experience. As for Shui-Er's side, as long as Shui-Er herself paid more attention, and he helped her get rid of a few stumbling blocks, the plan would progress smoothly. Lu Yuan simplified his goals to Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow stared at Lu Yuan for a long time before sighing softly. Yes, with this guy's character, how could he be willing to hide his identity forever? The Golden Dragon's pride had already seeped into his bones. Wearing a mask to hide his identity was probably the most he could accept. If he had to disguise himself as someone else, he would not be able to accept it. However, if this guy didn't stay, she would still be alone. This was a terrible feeling, especially after experiencing Lu Yuan's care and concern. After tasting the feeling of having Lu Yuan by her side, she hated the feeling of hiding by herself even more. "Cher, listen to me. In the entire Heaven Do Empire, there are 2 things that we must seize," Lu Yuan said. "What is it?" Chihiro Snow asked. "One is the Heaven Do Empire's military power. The other is the wealth of the 7 treasures glazed sect," Lu Yuan said. Controlling the Heaven Do Empire's military power was equivalent to controlling a 1,000,000-strong army. Although the Martial Soul Palace controlled most of the world's soul masters, it lacked a direct army. After all, soul masters were the minority. Ordinary citizens were the foundation of the Douluo continent. The strength of a 1,000,000-strong army was not to be underestimated. The 7 Treasures Glazed sect was the wealthiest sect in the world. It could be said that their wealth was comparable to that of a country. Lu Yuan had once thought that the 7 Treasures Glazed sect's wealth would not surpass the Martial Soul Palace's. Later on, he found out that the 7 Treasures Glazed sect was truly inhumane. They were truly rich. It was not a lie to say that their wealth was comparable to that of a country. Wealth was also a form of strength. With wealth, one could have the best weapons, the best equipment, and the most abundant food. This was extremely important in war. After all, war was a war that tested the strength of a country. To put it bluntly, it was burning money. In the original novel, Tang San's Tang sect had developed so quickly because of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect's support. He could not let this power go. He had to get it in his hands. Just 2 titled Douluo were not enough. They could not determine the overall situation. Furthermore, in terms of the number of titled Douluo, all the powers combined could not compare to the Martial Soul Palace. However, he had to pay attention to their wealth. Titled Douluo were still humans. As long as they were not gods, they would not be able to ignore the existence of numbers. Therefore, he had to subdue the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. If he could not, he had to think of a way to destroy it. He could not let Tang-san benefit from it. Chapter 168. The Military Power of the Heaven Do Empire and the Wealth of the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect? Chihiro Snow muttered softly. Lu Yuan was right. These two things were indeed the most important to the martial Soul Palace. With military power, controlling the entire Heaven Do Empire would be a piece of cake. With the wealth of the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect, the Martial Spirit Hall would be able to create even better weapons and develop even more advanced equipment. It was important to know that the quality of equipment was one of the most important factors in a war for ordinary soldiers. You're right. But how do you plan to do it? Ning Fengji is not a simple person, Chihiro Snow said. Of course I know that. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. And I have some ideas in mind. But I still need to get familiar with him first. That's easy. Ning Fengji is my teacher now. I can introduce him to you, Chihiro Snow said. No, you can't do that, Lu Yuan said. Why? Chihiro Snow asked doubtfully. I want to get to know Ning Fengji, but you can't introduce me to him, Lu Yuan said. Why? Chihiro Snow was puzzled. Because my identity will be exposed one day. It's just a matter of time. If you introduce me to Ning Fengji, it means that you have something to do with me which will affect you. However, if Ning Fengji knows me, it's different. It won't affect you at all. Moreover, if Ning Fengji takes the initiative to introduce us to each other, we can meet every day. At most, in the eyes of others, we'll be very close. Even if my identity is exposed, you can push the blame to Ning Fengji because he was the one who introduced us. With that, Lu Yuan smiled brightly. Chihiro Snow was stunned when she heard this. Then, a smile appeared on her charming face. You have a lot of ideas. But it makes sense. Lu Yuan's plan was much more comprehensive. No matter what, he could ensure that she wouldn't be affected. It seemed like this guy really thought of everything for her. Chihiro Snow felt sweet inside. However, what are you going to do? Chihiro Snow asked. It was not easy to attract Ning Fengji's attention. It's simple. Isn't Ning Fengji your teacher? Lu Yuan asked. If I recall correctly, the 3 committee members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy are also your people, right? Qian Renshue's eyes were filled with astonishment as she asked, You know about this too? Of course. Lu Yuan gently rubbed Chihiro Snow's cheek and said, I have to pay more attention to things related to you, don't I? Naturally, he wouldn't say that he only knew about it because he read the original novel. He wasn't stupid. Besides, wouldn't it be better to increase his favorability with Chihiro Snow? As expected, after hearing Lu Yuan's words, a smile appeared on Chihiro Snow's beautiful face. She said, If you want to talk, then talk. Can you not touch me? Her tone was very gentle, clearly not angry. Lu Yuan naturally knew that she was referring to him rubbing his face against hers. However, not only did Lu Yuan not restrain himself, he rubbed his face against hers again. I didn't touch you, I touched your face. Lu Yuan chuckled as he spoke. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes. Then what do you want to do? Simple. Lu Yuan said. I'll challenge the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. You can invite Ning Fengji to watch the competition. With my talent, I'll definitely stun Ning Fengji. That's a good idea. Lu Yuan was right. With Ning Fengji's character of cherishing talents, how could he not be moved when he saw such an outstanding genius like Lu Yuan? He would probably invite him to join the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect immediately. In this way, wouldn't their relationship be established? But are you sure you can beat those people? Although the Heaven Do Imperial Academy is rotten, there are still some geniuses. Although they're far inferior to you, they're much older than you. Are you sure you can beat them? Lu Yuan asked. Does the Heaven Do Imperial Academy have a Soul King? No. Chihiro Snow said. Do they have a high-level soul ancestor? Chihiro Snow shook her head. Then what are you worried about? Lu Yuan laughed. Looks like you're very confident. Chihiro Snow laughed. Of course, Lu Yuan said, as long as they're not a high-level soul ancestor like you, I can beat them. Lu Yuan's voice was calm, but it was convincing. Chihiro Snow was stunned for a moment, then the corner of her mouth curled up. This was the person she liked. When are you going to challenge them? Chihiro Snow asked. There's no rush. I'll go to the Soul Arena and get a Golden Battle Soul to play with. The owner of the Golden Battle Soul Arena's Golden Battle Soul Arena challenges the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. I think this title should be quite interesting. Lu Yuan laughed. You. Qian Rinxue patted Lu Yuan lightly on the back. This guy is really taking everything into consideration. After all, if a nobody were to challenge the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, the other students might not be interested. However, the owner of the Golden Battle Spirit Medallion in the Great Battle Arena would be more valuable. With this identity, Lu Yuan's challenge to the Heaven Do Imperial Academy will be even more explosive. It'll also arouse Ning Fengji's curiosity and achieve his goal. This guy is really scary. He does things one after another. But luckily, he's my man. Qian Rinxue's charming face surged with a smile. She wouldn't forget that this guy once said that as long as she was alive, he would never betray the Martial Soul Palace. Since that's the case, then the more outstanding Lu Yuan is, the happier Chihiro Snow will be. But even if you know him, how do you plan to continue your plan? Chihiro Snow asked. I'll have to take it one step at a time. There's no rush. We still have time. Lu Yuan's eyes flickered. There's no rush. His plan still needs some time, at least 2 years. Okay. Chihiro Snow nodded. Lu Yuan lifted his head from Chihiro Snow's shoulder and looked into Chihiro Snow's eyes. Share. Lu Yuan called out softly. What's wrong? Chihiro Snow looked at him, puzzled. No matter what difficulties we encounter in this life, I'll be by your side, even if it means going against the whole world. Lu Yuan looked into Chihiro Snow's eyes with deep affection. Why are you suddenly saying this? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow was moved. This guy always liked to say things that made him happy. Chihiro Snow asked with joy in his heart. I just wanted to say it. Lu Yuan smiled and gently moved closer to Chihiro Snow's red lip. Chihiro Snow was shocked. This time, Lu Yuan didn't sneak attack. Instead, he slowly moved closer. However, Chihiro Snow didn't want to hide anymore and closed his eyes. He kissed Chihiro Snow's red lips again. The taste was excellent. Lu Yuan gently hugged Chihiro Snow's waist. Chihiro Snow also began to slowly respond. Chapter 169. Share, I don't want to leave. Lu Yuan pulled on Chihiro Snow's jade-like hand, his face full of reluctance. It's getting late. If you don't leave, where are you going to sleep? Chihiro Snow said. Unknowingly, it was already evening. The two of them had already stayed in the study for almost 4 hours. How about I sleep with you tonight? Lu Yuan leaned over and kissed Chihiro Snow's forehead. Scram, you lecher. Chihiro Snow lifted her jade-like leg and kicked towards Lu Yuan. This guy, he's not being serious again. Lu Yuan hurriedly dodged and pretended to be sad. Sigh, we haven't seen each other for more than a year. You don't even have a heart to ask me to stay for a meal. Looking at Lu Yuan's rare childish appearance, Chihiro Snow was somewhat amused. However, she was still prepared to comfort him. She stood up and helped Lu Yuan tidy up his clothes. There are many people in the Crown Prince's residence. Didn't you say that you can't reveal yourself now? There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Her tone was gentle, but firm. Lu Yuan knew that there was no chance for him to stay for a meal. All right. Then I'll leave. Lu Yuan touched Chihiro Snow's jade-like face and kissed her under Chihiro Snow's reproachful gaze. As he spoke, he put on the golden mask, opened the door of the study, and walked out. This guy. Chihiro Snow touched the place where Lu Yuan had kissed her. How many times had he kissed her today? He's really getting more and more impudent, Chihiro Snow thought to herself, but her charming face was full of smiles. Looking at Lu Yuan's departing figure, Chihiro Snow once again brushed her face. A moment later, she returned to her appearance as Shuechinghe. She slowly took off the fox fur coat on her body and gently stroked it with her jade-like hand. Bad guy, Chihiro Snow softly muttered. Lu Yuan left the Crown Prince's mansion. With the two Douluo leading the way, he didn't alert anyone in the Crown Prince's mansion. Let's stop here. Seniors, I'll leave Shui-er's safety in your hands. Lu Yuan bowed to the two of them. These two titled Douluo were Chihiro Snow's greatest guarantee of safety. For the sake of Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan didn't mind suppressing his pride and bowing to them. To Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's life was more important than anything else. Even the entire Douluo continent wasn't as important as a single hair on Chihiro Snow. Of course, if it were Hulaina and Zhu Zhuqing, it would be the same. The snake spear Douluo and the thorny pufferfish Douluo said, "You're too kind, young Master Yuan. We'll protect young mistress even if we have to die." Many thanks, seniors. I'll take my leave now. Seniors, please don't go any further. Lu Yuan cupped his fists and turned to leave. Looking at Lu Yuan's back, the snake spear Douluo sighed softly and said, "What a godlike person. Young mistress, you're so lucky." Yes, he's talented and knows his manners. His future is limitless. He's really a good match for young mistress. The thorny pufferfish Douluo laughed. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other and laughed. Then, they turned and entered the Crown Prince's mansion. Star Blue Hotel. Lu Yuan lay on the soft, snow-white bed. Chihiro Snow's beautiful face seemed to be right in front of him. "Little Shui," Lu Yuan called out softly. Then, his eyes suddenly became sharp. In order to protect little Shui's smile, there were some things he had to do. "Senior Crazy Rhino," Lu Yuan shouted softly. Then, the door opened and the Crazy Rhino Douluo appeared in front of Lu Yuan. "Young master, what are your orders?" "Let's go to the Great Soul Arena in Heaven Do City." Lu Yuan laughed softly and said. "Yes, young master," the Crazy Rhino Douluo replied. "Is this the Great Soul Arena in Heaven Do Imperial City? It's quite grand." Looking at the tall building in front of him, Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with a trace of surprise, but it disappeared in an instant. "Let's go in." Lu Yuan led the way in, and the Crazy Rhino Douluo followed behind him. "If I remember correctly, we should register a badge first." Thinking back to the description of the Great Soul Arena in the original novel and his understanding of it in this life, Lu Yuan knew that the first thing to do if he wanted to participate in the soul dueling tournament was to register a soul dueling badge. They followed the crowd to the front desk. Lu Yuan didn't wear a mask because from now on, he was going to start his plan. Furthermore, he needed to hide his identity as the Pope's disciple in the Martial Soul Palace, and it had nothing to do with him. Only the higher-ups in the Martial Soul Palace knew that he was the Pope's disciple, and those who knew his appearance were even rarer. Other than the elders in the Hall of Elders and the Pope's Palace, only Osfer and Sakaz knew. However, these people wouldn't expose his identity. Without a mask, Lu Yuan's aura naturally made him the center of attention. The person in charge of registering badges was a young lady. At this moment, little stars appeared in her eyes as she looked at Lu Yuan's fairy-like appearance. "Can I disturb you for a moment?" Lu Yuan asked indifferently. The female attendant reacted and hurriedly said, "Sir, are you here to register a badge?" "Yes, sorry to trouble you," Lu Yuan said. 5 copper soul coins. "What name would you like to use?" the female attendant asked. "Emperor Dragon," Lu Yuan said. "Okay, this is your soul fighting badge. Please keep it well." The female attendant handed the iron soul fighting badge to Lu Yuan. "Thank you." Lu Yuan still looked indifferent. He took the soul fighting badge and said, "Please register me for a one-on-one soul fighting battle." "Thank you." Okay, but what's your rank? Soul Grandmaster, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Okay, sir. The female attendant operated it for a while and said, Your arena is in Arena C. Please get ready. Okay. Lu Yuan nodded, then turned and left. So handsome. Looking at Lu Yuan's back, the female attendant became infatuated again. Arena C. Lu Yuan looked at the road map engraved on the wall of the Great Soul Arena, and smoothly arrived at Arena C. Arena C was already full of people. The audience was below the arena. When Lu Yuan arrived, his unique immortal-like temperament attracted the attention of everyone present. The men were unhappy and jealous. After all, Lu Yuan was too outstanding. The women, on the other hand, couldn't control themselves. Lu Yuan asked for a private room and walked in with the frenzy rhino Douluo. He preferred silence and didn't like to stay with too many people, especially a group of people he didn't know. After entering the private room, Lu Yuan sat on the sofa, bored to death as he watched the match below through the glass screen. There were two Soul Grandmasters, but in Lu Yuan's eyes, their battle was simply child's play. Young Master Yuan, your charm is really great. The frenzy rhino Douluo laughed. When they came in just now, the frenzy rhino Douluo saw the expressions of the women, and they all wanted to eat Lu Yuan. Hearing the frenzy rhino Douluo's words, Lu Yuan's expression didn't change, and he said, You'll get used to it. He knew his appearance better than anyone, and he was already used to the feelings of a young man who liked to show off. He was already used to the admiring gazes of other girls. What really made him happy were the gazes of his loved ones, such as Hulina's infatuation, Zhu Zhuqing's stubbornness, and Chihiro Snow's tenacity. These were what Lu Yuan was willing to pay attention to. Chapter 170. Hearing this, the frenzied rhino Douluo smiled slightly. That's right, with a peerless beauty like Miss, how could young Master Yuan care about those mediocre beauties? For example, if you already had a peerless treasure like the jade annulus of He clan, and someone gave you a piece of broken glass, wouldn't you want it? You probably wouldn't even bother to look at it. A battle between Soul Grandmasters is really boring. Is this the strength of the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena? Lu Yuan shook his head. They were too weak, and he had no desire to watch at all. From battle awareness to fighting techniques, they were all a mess. Furthermore, wasn't the destructive power of these Soul Grandmasters a little too weak? It seemed that he had to fight those of a higher rank. Furthermore, his opponents were all Soul Grandmasters, and each victory only gave him 1 point. Upgrading to Gold Soul required 5,000 points. Even with the bonus points from consecutive victories, it still required a lot of time. He didn't have that much time to waste. However, the points for fighting those of a higher rank were very generous. Seeing the disdain in Lu Yuan's eyes, the frenzied rhino Douluo laughed. It's rare to meet a genius in this great soul arena, and even the so-called genius is far inferior to young Master Yuan. He wasn't exaggerating at all. Lu Yuan wasn't even 10 years old yet, but he was already a Class 29 soul beast. That meant he'd be a soul exalt by the time he was 10 years old. If that was the case, then he'd be a soul ancestor by the time he was 13. One had to know that even Miss, who had a full soul power of rank 20, had only just become a soul ancestor by the time she was 13 years old. However, Miss' starting point was almost 10 ranks higher than young Master Yuan. Young Master Yuan was actually able to reach the same height as Miss at the same age. This talent was really terrifying. Senior Frenzied Rhino, you praise me too much. Lu Yuan waved his hand, and there was no trace of complacency on his face. He knew his position better than anyone else. Being able to reach his current level was the result of his own hard work. He never took any pills, nor did he use the so-called resources. He relied on his own cultivation. Of course, if he obtained the immortal grass in the future, he would still take the pills he needed. He would be a fool if he didn't. What he cultivated himself was naturally the best and the most reliable. Huiyu Hao wasn't moved by the frenzy Rhino Douluo's praise. He wasn't the kind of person who liked to listen to flattery. Wouldn't it be better for him to meditate if he had the time to do so? The infernal rhinoceros Douluo nodded his head in approval when he saw that Lu Yuan was still as calm as ever. Young Master Yuan was indeed a dragon among men. He wasn't arrogant or complacent at all. Instead, every step he took was very stable. The frenzy Rhino Douluo had witnessed everything that Lu Yuan had done ever since he came to Heaven Do Imperial City. He was truly a rare talent that only appeared once in 100 years. Then you see, the next battle, Emperor Dragon vs. Black Snake. Contestants Emperor Dragon and Black Snake, please get ready, the loudspeaker announced while the two were chatting. Oh, is it my turn? Lu Yuan stretched his back and quickly dismissed this so-called opponent. Then, he prepared to start the Cross-Realm Challenge. Lu Yuan walked into the Great Soul dueling arena. On the other side, a shadowy man with a scar on his face walked up to him. Now, let me introduce the results of the two contestants. Contestant Black Snake has achieved 5 consecutive victories in Heaven Do Great Soul dueling arena. His strength is clear for all to see. Today is the first day of the Soul Duel for contestant Emperor Dragon. Will contestant Mysterious Snake continue to win, or will contestant Emperor Dragon make a comeback and create a miracle? The announcer's voice was very exaggerated. It was obvious that he wasn't optimistic about Lu Yuan's chances. After all, Lu Yuan's opponent today was Black Snake, who had achieved 5 consecutive victories. Black Snake! Black Snake! Black Snake! The audience reacted enthusiastically. Clearly, they were all supporting Black Snake. Emperor Dragon! Emperor Dragon! Emperor Dragon! Amidst the voices of support for Black Snake, a strange voice rang out. A male audience member looked at his girlfriend and said, "Why are you shouting for Emperor Dragon? Black Snake is obviously stronger." "I know, but Emperor Dragon is so handsome." His girlfriend's eyes were full of stars. She looked like a love-struck fool. The male audience member was unhappy. Black Snake has achieved 5 consecutive victories. He'll achieve 6 more today. "I know, but Emperor Dragon is so handsome. Black Snake will beat him up," the male audience member said angrily. "Women are really shallow. They only care about appearance. Strength is king, don't you know? But Emperor Dragon is so handsome." The male audience. Lu Yuan stepped onto the arena. He turned a deaf ear to the deafening voices around him. His eyes were still calm. Black Snake was Lu Yuan's opponent. He was a shadowy man with a scar on his face. He was currently staring at Lu Yuan with a vicious look in his narrow eyes. He hated pretty boys the most. Later, he would let this brat in front of him know how powerful he was. Lu Yuan looked at the opponent in front of him with an indifferent gaze. 3, 2, 1. Begin. The host's voice rang out. Martial Soul Possession, Black-lined Black Snake. Black lines began to appear on Black Snake's body. His face became even more ferocious. The black-lined Black Snake was a beast martial soul that contained a strong venom. Black Snake's soul ring combination was also unusual. He actually had 200-year soul rings. It was no wonder he could achieve 5 consecutive victories. Die, kid! Black Snake immediately used his first soul skill, Black Snake's Kiss. He condensed a giant snake of energy to attack his opponent. Moreover, it contained the black-lined Black Snake's venom. Good job, Mysterious Snake. Take down that pretty boy. A male spectator shouted excitedly from below the stage. Boring attacks, Lu Yuan said indifferently as he looked at the energy in Black Snake's hand. He stomped his foot and the specially reinforced arena cracked. Lu Yuan's figure suddenly dashed out. What? Where is he? Black Snake was startled. He instantly lost sight of Lu Yuan's figure. Suddenly, Lu Yuan's silhouette appeared and punched at Dusk Snake with a golden fist. Not good. Second soul skill, Black Snake Strangle. Black Snake was shocked and quickly used his second soul skill. Boom! Under Lu Yuan's punch, the Black Snake Strangle was blasted into pieces. Then, a golden fist landed on Black Snake's body and threw him out of the arena. 5 consecutive victories? He killed him with one punch. The audience was dumbfounded. The host was the first to recover, but he was still shocked. The match is over. Huang Long wins. Huang Long. Huang Long. Huang Long. The audience cheered for Lu Yuan. This was the Great Soul Arena, a place where only the winner could enjoy the cheers. The loser was ignored. Lu Yuan looked around, his heart unmoved. He turned around and left. How is this possible? Below the arena, a male audience member's mouth was wide open, his face filled with disbelief. Huang Long is really strong, but the main thing is that he's too handsome. His girlfriend's voice came from beside him. The male audience member turned around and saw a love-struck expression. Chapter 171. Looking at Lu Yuan's departing figure, the host's heart was filled with shock. He had a premonition that this person named Huang Long might set off a huge storm in the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena. Young Master Yuan? The frenzy Rhino Douluo called out as he watched Lu Yuan return to the private room. Let's go back first. We'll come back tomorrow. Lu Yuan said. Today was the end of the month, and tomorrow would be a new month. He was prepared to complete his goal in the next month. The frenzy Rhino Douluo nodded. The two of them walked out of the Great Soul Arena side by side. Crown Prince's residence. Chihiro Snow held a cup of tea as she looked at the snake spear Douluo beside her and asked, Lu Yuan hasn't been here for a long time. What is he doing? The snake spear Douluo said, Young Master Yuan has been in the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena every day. He participates in 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and group soul battles every day. Now, he has won 29 consecutive battles with these 3 soul battles. If he wins another battle, he will be able to get a purple gold medal after the points are tallied. That's not bad. Chihiro Snow sipped her tea and seemed to think of something. She asked, You said that he participates in 2-on-2 and group soul battles. Where did he get his teammates? Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled. If she remembered correctly, this guy came alone. Then where did he get his teammates? Young Master Yuan doesn't have any teammate. He fought 1-on-2. Even in the group battle, he fought alone. The snake spear Douluo said. Chihiro Snow was shocked. She asked, Then what level of competition is this guy participating in? Soul Grandmaster? No, young Master Yuan is participating in the Soul Elder Arena. He is challenging those of a higher level. He's only a rank 29, but he's still able to defeat 7 Soul Exalts over the level of 30 and win 29 matches in a row. This guy's improved quite a bit. Chihiro Snow was a little surprised. It seemed that after not seeing him for more than a year, Lu Yuan's strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Even she was a little surprised by his achievements. The snake spear Douluo said, Young Master Yuan is indeed impressive. Furthermore, I've heard that young Master Yuan wins every single battle. He's like a superstar in the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena now. He's very popular. Chihiro Snow smiled. Sure enough, this guy was not born to be low-key. Wherever he went, he would be the center of attention. Qian Rinxue stood up and said, Make some preparations later. Come with me to the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena and watch this fellow's final battle. On one hand, she was indeed curious about Lu Yuan's strength, but on the other hand, she would not say it out loud. After not seeing him for a month, she somewhat missed Lu Yuan, that rascal who liked to take advantage of her. Heaven Do Great Soul Arena. Lu Yuan was dressed in white. In front of him were 7 men and women dressed in different colors. This was his last battle in the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena. Before this, he had already gone through 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 battles, and he had easily swept his opponents. As a Soul Elder, there were too few people who could take a few punches and kicks from him. Lu Yuan was now like a superstar in the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena. In 29 days, he had won 3 consecutive battles every day. This was already a legend in the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena. Furthermore, all of his opponents were 2-ringed and 3-ringed. Even the most picky audience was conquered by Lu Yuan's strength. Emperor Dragon! Emperor Dragon! Emperor Dragon! The moment Lu Yuan stepped onto the stage, the audience below the stage cheered enthusiastically. Both men and women gave Lu Yuan the biggest cheer and support. The men admired Lu Yuan's unparalleled strength, while the women coveted Lu Yuan's unparalleled celestial appearance. Almost everyone in the audience was Lu Yuan's fan. The 7 people facing Lu Yuan seemed to be a little flustered. Clearly, Lu Yuan was only one person, but in their eyes, he was more terrifying than a scourge. Because of this man's great name, they also knew very well about him. Many teams that were even more powerful than them had fallen in front of this man one by one. He was clearly a mere Soul Grandmaster. What was wrong with this world? Could a Soul Grandmaster beat a group of Soul Elders by himself? Alright, our contestants are all here now. On my left is Team Scarlet Blood. This team has also achieved very good result. On my right is our contestant Emperor Dragon. For the past month, contestant Emperor Dragon has continuously achieved 1-on-1 victories in our Heaven Do Great Soul Arena. 1 against 2, 30 consecutive victories, and 1 against 7, 29 consecutive victories. Moreover, they were all against opponents of a higher rank than them. Today is the last day of the month. Let us see if contestant Emperor Dragon can create another miracle. The host's words were full of praise for Lu Yuan. To the current Heaven Do Great Soul Arena, Lu Yuan was already a legendary existence. A legend that couldn't be replicated. Oh, is it starting? In a private room, Chihiro Snow's disguise, Shuechinghe, Snake Spear, Thorny Pufferfish, and Wild Rhino were all present. In fact, this was Lu Yuan's private room, but it was temporarily commandeered by Chihiro Snow. Of course, Lu Yuan himself didn't know about it. At that time, he had already gone to the competition. Chihiro Snow arrived a little late and missed the 1-on-1 and 1-on-2 matches. However, he didn't miss the last team battle. Stinky guy, let me see how strong you are now. Chihiro Snow muttered. Begin. As soon as the host's voice fell, Lu Yuan's martial soul instantly entered his body. His golden dragon martial soul's divine might bloomed, and 2 soul rings, 1 yellow and 1 purple, shone brightly. The battle was about to begin. 2 minutes later, Lu Yuan casually threw the Soul Elder in his hand away. In a short 2 minutes, Lu Yuan had already ended the battle. 7 versus 1 actually didn't affect Lu Yuan much. With Lu Yuan's speed, numbers didn't have much meaning to him. If he wanted to win, he could only rely on absolute strength to crush him. Using numbers to overwhelm him wouldn't work. Soul Elders were basically unable to block his full strength punch now that he had his martial soul in his body. 7 people would only take a little more effort. The competition is over. Congratulations to contestant Huang Long for obtaining his 30th consecutive victory as a team battle soul. The host's excited voice sounded. Huang Long! Huang Long! Huang Long! The entire audience cheered. Lu Yuan had created a new record. In a month, he had obtained 30 consecutive victories in 3 soul battles, 1-on-1, 1-on-2, and 1-on-7. This was simply a miracle in the eyes of ordinary people. Lu Yuan's expression was still indifferent. He turned around and walked towards the exit. It's over? Chihiro Snow's eyes were filled with astonishment when he saw Lu Yuan defeating 7 soul elders like he was beating a chicken. Lu Yuan's strength was probably close to that of a Soul King. Moreover, even an ordinary Soul King might not be able to do it so easily. This stinky guy really has some strength, Chihiro Snow muttered to himself. Chapter 172. Lu Yuan walked in big strides, and the soles of his shoes touched the ground of the great fighting soul arena, making a clattering sound. He had won 30 consecutive one-on-one, one-on-two, and group battle soul battles. Now, he was qualified to advance to the purple gold fighting soul medal, and he was not far from the sapphire medal. After all, the score of cross-level battles was 10 times, and with the addition of the winning streak, Lu Yuan's score had reached an amazing level. The Fighting Soul Badge was calculated at the end of each month. Now, Lu Yuan's Fighting Soul Badge was still the Iron Fighting Soul Badge, but after this calculation, his Fighting Soul Badge would be upgraded. Hello, please calculate the score. Lu Yuan handed the Fighting Soul Badge to the waiter at the front desk. The waiter looked up and recognized Lu Yuan, Huang Long. There was a hint of excitement in his voice. Now that Lu Yuan was in the great fighting soul arena, there were very few staff who didn't know him. Just as the waiter was about to take Lu Yuan's fighting soul badge, a middle-aged man in a white suit came out. "Let me do it," the middle-aged man said. "Okay, Deacon Zheng," the waiter said quickly. Deacon Zheng took the iron fighting soul badge from Lu Yuan's hand with a smile on his face. "Mr. Huang Long, I've heard a lot about you. You look like 13 or 14 years old. You are really young and promising." "You flatter me." Lu Yuan nodded lightly. "Haha." Seeing Lu Yuan's attitude, Deacon Jing didn't care because he also understood that the Emperor Dragon in front of him had such a cold temper. "Actually, I came here this time because I have something to discuss with Mr. Huang Long." "Oh, what is it?" He didn't care that Deacon Jing might be thinking about him. After all, with his performance in the Great Fighting Soul Arena, he would attract the attention of the Great Fighting Soul Arena sooner or later. In fact, Lu Yuan was a little surprised that Deacon Zheng could wait until now to come. "Our Heaven Do Great Soul Arena would like to invite Mr. Huang Long as a guest participant of our Great Soul Arena. What do you think?" "Guest contestant?" Lu Yuan frowned. "What do you mean?" "Guest contestants are equivalent to our Great Soul Arena's consecrators. They can enjoy the consecrations of our Great Soul Arena. They only need to come out when our Great Soul Arena needs help," Deacon Jing said. Lu Yuan frowned and said, "Aren't they just hired thugs? I don't have that much time to waste in the Great Soul Arena." Deacon Jing's face stiffened and he said, "Mr. Huang Long, won't you reconsider? This matter is very beneficial to both of us." Lu Yuan glanced at Deacon Jing and said, "I know what the Great Soul Arena is thinking. Today is my last battle in the Heaven Do Arena. I won't come here again, and I won't let your Great Soul Arena lose money. What does Deacon Jing think?" After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Deacon Jing's face was full of smiles. He said, "Since Mr. Huang Long has said so, the Heaven Do Arena won't force you." As he spoke, he calculated Lu Yuan's points and exchanged them for a gorgeous purple gold fighting soul badge and handed it to Lu Yuan. At the same time, he also gave him a golden card. This was the wealth that Lu Yuan had won in the Great Soul Arena. It was about 100,000 gold soul coins. Lu Yuan took the fighting soul badge and the golden card, and turned to leave. It seemed that this was the last time he came to the Heaven Do Arena. How could he not understand the Heaven Do Arena's intentions? There was no doubt that his winning rate in the Heaven Do Arena was too high. As long as he appeared, the audience would bet on him winning. Naturally, the Heaven Do Arena would lose money. It was fine if this happened once or twice, but if it happened too many times, the Heaven Do Arena would feel the pinch. Therefore, the Heaven Do Arena would definitely take countermeasures. The so-called guest contestant was just a cover. The main purpose was to make Lu Yuan give up. Therefore, when Lu Yuan said so, Deacon Zheng naturally agreed. In the end, it was just for the sake of profit. If Lu Yuan was just an ordinary person, perhaps the Heaven Do Arena would have already made trouble for him. They wouldn't be negotiating with him like now. Because Lu Yuan was too mysterious and outstanding, it was obvious that he had a strong background. The Heaven Do Arena didn't dare to mess with him. Therefore, they came up with this trick. Lu Yuan had already seen through these things, but he didn't care in his heart. Even if the Heaven Do Arena didn't make trouble for him, he wouldn't come in the future. He wasn't that free. Thinking about this, Lu Yuan lifted his leg and walked towards his box. The door of the box was closed. Lu Yuan wasn't surprised. After all, he was now quite famous in the Great Soul Arena. If he didn't close the door, many small fans would come one by one. He couldn't stand it. He liked to be quiet. Pushing open the door of the box, the first thing that came into view was Chihiro Snow disguised as Xueqinghe. Looking at Lu Yuan's surprised expression, he even gave Lu Yuan a playful look. Lu Yuan's body trembled and he instantly felt a chill. If it was still Chihiro Snow's original appearance, it would naturally be charming. But now that Chihiro Snow was wearing the face of Xueqinghe, Lu Yuan almost got a fright. "Why are you here?" Lu Yuan walked in and closed the door of the box. "I'm here to see the performance of our great master Lu," Chihiro Snow said. "You came out just because you said so. Why are you still wearing this face? Aren't you afraid of attracting attention?" Xueqinghe was the current crown prince. Many people in Heaven Do Imperial City knew him. If he came to find him like this and attracted attention, it was very likely that his relationship with him would be exposed. When did this girl become so bold? "It's okay, we came out secretly. We won't attract attention," Chihiro Snow said. Lu Yuan took a few steps forward and glanced at the three-titled Douluo beside him. Then, he pointed at the door of the box. "Oh. Understood, understood." The frenzy Rhino Douluo instantly reacted. He opened the door and walked out of the box. The two titled Douluo, Snake Spear and Thorny Pufferfish, also instantly understood something. They looked at the two of them with ambiguous gazes. Then, with an inexplicable smile on their faces, they also walked out of the box together and closed the door of the box. Seeing the actions of the three titled Douluo, Chihiro Snow's face flushed red. Only Chihiro Snow and Lu Yuan were left in the box. Chihiro Snow removed the disguise on his face. Instantly, the beautiful Chihiro Snow was back. Lu Yuan took a few steps forward and gently held Chihiro Snow's hand. "Did you miss me?" "Who missed you? You're shameless," Chihiro Snow said, but the corner of his mouth curved into a smile. "It's been a month and I'm seeing this guy again." Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled. Sure enough, Xiao Shui was being arrogant again. However, he still liked this proud Xiao Shui. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.